Folks, we'll start in just a minute. We're just waiting for the attorney to come and give us a minute. You know how I like to start on time. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. All right. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and forwarding to the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at Town Hall at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, October 17th, 2023. Meeting details and the draft agenda were also posted on our township website. Please all stand to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Here.
Ms. Prupus? Here. Ms. Romano?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Vanayak?
Here.
Mayor Miggins?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before I proceed with approving the agenda, we wanted to take a moment to recognize the horrific bloodshed and murder that's happened to innocent victims over in Israel this past week. We as a township committee had a vigil last week and we put out a proclamation, and we want to just read that to you so you understand where your township committee stands. Whereas on October 7, 2023, Hamas terrorists launched a coordinated, unprovoked attack on Israel from the Gaza Strip. And whereas Hamas has fired thousands of rockets towards Israel's major population centers, breached Israel's borders, infiltrated Israel communities, and kidnapped over 100 civilians, now 200, from numerous nations, killed more than 1,200 Israelis and wounded over 1,000 more. And whereas it's now 29 Americans have been declared dead at the hands of Hamas. And whereas this is the most significant attack on Israel since the Yom Kippur War, which was launched 50 years ago, nearly to the day. And whereas more than 300,000 reserve soldiers were called to defend the state of Israel, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared that Israel was at war to defend itself. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Millburn Township Mayor Maggie Miggins, in the County of Essex in the state of New Jersey, on behalf of the Millburn Township Committee, continue to confront and combat anti-Semitism and hereby proclaim the following. That the Township of Millburn unequivocally condemns Hamas for this deplorable and unprovoked attack on Israel. That the Township of Millburn stands in solidarity with the state of Israel and condemns this unprovoked attack by Hamas against Israel and its citizens, and supports Israel's right to defend herself and protect its citizens from indiscriminate violence and terrorism. And that the Township of Millburn unequivocally supports the right of the state of Israel to exist as a sovereign and independent nation with the full recognition of its borders and its territories. You know, our Jewish brothers and sisters make up less than 0.2% of the population in the world, 0.2%, the smallest population in the whole world. So for these bullies to continue to attack is an affront to all, should be an affront to all of us. And I'd like to take a moment of silence. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? May I have a second? All those in favor? Any opposed? May I have a motion to approve the October 3rd, 2023 Township Committee minutes? May I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Tara abstains? Yep, great. Okay, so why I think a lot of us are here tonight. Chief Gilfetter could not be with us this evening, but he has put us in the trusty hands of Blaze. How do you like that? So, sir, would you be good enough to provide background on the gentleman that we're promoting this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Council. So it's not just Blaze, it's Captain Blazinski. Just don't know who I am. I just
Sorry.
want to let everybody know that I'm actually honored to be here. And, you know, I haven't done this before. And working with these two fine young men, Donald and Travis. I'm going to call Donald DJ from here on out, okay? Because it's just a little bit easier for me. It really is an honor for me to do this. And this is a milestone in their career. But I'm not going to throw it off. And these two actually deserve this promotion that they're getting. All right, so I'm going to start with DJ. Little background on DJ. He grew up in Lincoln Park and he graduated from Boonton High School. He's an active volunteer firefighter and EMT. I mean, active, he still does this stuff. He started his career in 2012 and he was hired by the Morris County Communications Center where he served as a police and fire dispatcher. In 2014, he was hired by the Morris County Sheriff's Department, Bureau of Corrections. And then in 2015, he was hired by the Morris County Sheriff's Department, Bureau of Law Enforcement. This is where he served as a member of the Morris County Narcotics Task Force. And he certainly brought that experience here to Millburn. I know you guys have seen him get multiple awards here. In 2016, he was hired by us, thankfully for us. He served as a patrolman for 3 years, and in 2020, he was assigned to the Detective Bureau. Joining him tonight is his wife, Lauren, his two daughters, Kayla and Skylar, and several other family members, all here in the front row. Now on to Travis. Travis grew up in Lafayette, New Jersey. He graduated from Pope John High School and then went on to study at the County College of Morris, graduating with an associate's degree in criminal justice. In 2009, Travis was hired by the West Orange Police Department and attended the Essex County Police Academy. And I'm sure there's a few West Orange guys in here today. No? He served as a patrolman in West Orange until March of 2011, when he was hired by the Millburn Police Department. In 2013, after doing a very short stint with the Patrol Bureau, he was assigned to the Training and Traffic Bureau. Travis is also a very active member of our crash investigation team and the emergency service unit. He's joined here tonight with his wife, Christine, and several other family and friends. They're all in the front row over here.
May I have a motion to approve Resolution 23-250, which confirms the promotions?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Banayak?
yes,
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Gaddy, you will now issue the oath of offices, starting with Mr. Royce.
You guys to work? Ready?
She wants her dad.
Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Donald Royce,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of police sergeant
the duties of police sergeant
of the Millburn Township Police Department
of the Millburn Township Police Department
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations from Kansas. Sorry, I'm not there.
He's shorting this.
He's good. I know, me too. I state your name.
I, Travis Giroux,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of
Police Sergeant of the Milburn Township Police Department
Police Sergeant of the Milburn Township Police Department
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. I'm sure you're all interested in the rest of the meeting. However, why don't we give a 5-minute break? Okay, we're going to start our meeting again. Ready? Awesome. Great. Reports. We're going to start with reports. Deputy Mayor Vinayak, why don't we start with you up there? And do you have any reports for us this evening, sir?
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
I just want to wish, again, my report overall, not have too many out there, but want to wish happy Diwali to everyone, start of the Diwali season, for all my Indian friends and Hindu who celebrate Diwali. That is it from my side. Thank you, Mayor, for giving
Thank
me
you,
the
sir.
chance.
Ms. Prupus, do you have anything for us this evening?
No reports.
No reports. Okay. Mr. Cohen?
Yes, first of all, just a reminder, the Arboretum Cornhole Tournament is this Sunday at the Boxcar.
Excuse me? We're speaking up here. Thank you.
The Cornhole Tournament is for benefiting the Arboretum is this Sunday at the Boxcar from 1 to 4. So, and there's also walk-ups available and you can still register online.
Anything else?
Yeah, and then the other thing I want to read, last night, the trustees of the Millburn Public Library passed a resolution that I would like to read into the record.
Sure.
So here it goes. Whereas reading is a foundational skill essential for critical thinking, future learning, and exercising democratic freedom. And whereas books and other materials are tools for understanding complex issues, and whereas libraries provide access to books and other materials that offer lessons to readers of all ages and expand our understanding of people with different backgrounds, ideas, and beliefs, and whereas limiting young people's access to books and other materials does not protect them from life's complex and challenging issues, and whereas all people, including young people, deserve to see themselves reflected in the library's collection, and whereas librarians are professionals trained not to impose their own thoughts and opinions on which ideas are right, but to make knowledge and ideas available so that people have the freedom to choose what to read. And whereas removing and banning books and other materials from public libraries represent a loss of liberty, a step toward government censorship, and the erosion of our state's and our nation's commitment to freedom of expression. And whereas book bans, by virtue of their exclusionary nature, limit choices, harm communities, then therefore be it resolved that the trustees of the Millburn Free Public Library endorse the following statement. Individuals should be trusted to make their own decisions about what they read and believe. Further, people should not be making decisions for other people about what they read. We are united against book bans. Therefore, be it further resolved that we, as Millburn Library trustees, will act to protect the rights of everyone to access a variety of books and other materials in libraries and bookstores, online, and in other venues. And therefore, be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Millburn Free Public Library hereby designates the Millburn Free Public Library as a book sanctuary. And that was passed unanimously by everybody that was at the meeting last night.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cohen. Ms. Romano, do you have any reports for us?
Yes, first I just want to say, last Thursday's evening, last Thursday was a very special evening. As Rabbi Matt said, my heart is broken and full at the same time. And I just want to thank our business administrator, Alex McDonald, for pulling it all together in less than 48 hours. And for our Millburn Police Department being here and just making sure that we're all safe. Explorer's annual meeting is this Thursday night at 5:30 at Town Hall or via Zoom. All business and property owners are invited to attend. The 2024 vision plan and annual budget will be presented, as well as the state of the SID. October 31st, Halloween, Fall into Millburn Short Hills event. It's a Halloween event that will feature an event trail in the downtown with free activities for kids, including the Biz for Kids Showcase. There will also be a pumpkin patch with pumpkin painting, a costume contest, and a chalk event. Installation of the directional signage, as well as 2 new welcome signs, are going to be installed in lot 14, I believe, on Friday. And the Millburn Short Hills Art Advisory Committee is proud to announce its 22nd landmark show, a celebration of artistry and creativity. The event runs through October 30th at the Millburn Library in the Art Gallery.
That's it. Okay. Mr. Marizzi, do you have any reports for us, sir?
I do. I have one report.
Okay.
It's a follow-up on the report I gave at the last meeting about their properties. Their properties is the litigation that challenges the creation of the special improvement district, and that litigation has been going on for some time. And I mentioned last meeting that there was going to be a case management conference to determine the next steps forward.
Mhm.
That happened last week. My partner, Andy Brewer, attended in person. And I mentioned 2 weeks ago that there was a dispute about which protective order should be signed to accompany the transmittal of the commercial leases to the township as part of the discovery. The judge determined to approve the one that was submitted by Mr. Brewer, and he immediately signed an order to do that. So the commercial leases have now been submitted to our office. Conversation took place about tax returns, which would become relevant in the event of a claim for damages. And I understand that a discussion followed and the damage claims were withdrawn, and the judge issued an order implementing that. But since that time, I understand that Mr. Feld has had, reconsidered that and has asked for a change in that position, and that is before the court.
Okay.
And the matter then goes on to be considered for non-binding arbitration in May, and that's where we stand.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McDonald, any reports for us?
Yes, Mayor. Just a reminder to residents that we are now engaged in leaf season. And when putting leaves out to the street, the Department of Public Works is asking that no grass clippings or branches be placed with the leaves. Piles that contain anything other than leaves may be left at the curb and not picked up. We are dropping leaves at a new location this year, and so we must eliminate the contamination of the product when collecting leaves. So again, just asking everybody to just keep it to leaves, no grass, no branches, no logs, no other things. Flood mitigation update. The RFPs for the bathymetric survey of Orange Reservoir will be received by the township on 10/24. The Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee will also be speaking with a representative from Greenbrook Township at its next meeting regarding an Army Corps project that took place there and whether something similar may or may not be applicable here in Milburn. And finally, the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee is going to be asking Mont McDonald to provide a model of a greater than 500-year flood to identify areas that we may not be familiar with that could be vulnerable in a much more drenching rain that we've seen in New York, Vermont, and different places like that in PA. And so that we can prepare accordingly, whether it's additional signage, letting people know that that they may be in that area, but just having a better understanding of what would happen in a more catastrophic rain event like that. Just a reminder that the Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board meeting will take place on October 24th at 1 p.m. via Zoom. And that we should see by the end of October additional pedestrian activated signage going in at the locations I had indicated at a previous meeting, but they include Glenwood and Campbell and Milburn Avenue. Milburn Avenue right by the high school, Parsonage Hill and Long Hill, as well as Short Hills Avenue and right by St. Rose of Lima. So a few different locations, I believe it's 4 or 5 that will have those additional pedestrian activated signs placed at. Lastly, I'd just like to update the Township Committee and the Township on the results of the survey that was given regarding the remediation of 9 Main Street remediation options. The survey was closed last week, and at the Township Committee meeting, we opened it up for an additional week. We received a total of 273 responses. 127 of those responses indicated that they would like to see the site excavated in full. 80 opted for capping of the site, and 71 did not choose an option and left a comment that has been shared with the Township Committee. And so at this point, I think that, as indicated in the last meeting, that by Mr. Mariziti that we have a redevelopment agreement that is being drafted, and we need to come up with what degree of remediation at the site the township committee would like to put in that redevelopment agreement. We have a deadline with the courts of December 6th, I believe, to have that redevelopment agreement signed, sealed, and delivered to them. And so this is sort of the last large piece that needs to be discussed and decided upon, and how that will be put in the redevelopment agreement. So just wanted to provide that information to the committee, see if there was any discussion that you wanted to have regarding that matter, and whether there was any guidance from Mr. Mariziti and myself as we continue to negotiate the redevelopment agreement with RPM.
Folks? Ms. Romano, Ms. Prupus, Deputy Mayor, Mr. Cohen. After reading the results, do you feel that you are confident in picking a solution?
I do.
You did, okay.
So,
Can you just talk a little louder, Mr. Deputy
yeah,
Mayor?
I was just waiting for anyone else to talk. Maybe I
Go
can
ahead.
talk after. I can start also if you want me.
Please.
So with the results that I've seen, it seems like more people want excavation than capping. And in my opinion, also, that is probably the right way to go, even though it's going to cost us a couple of $1 million extra, but there will be more safety and security for the people there as well as the township on being sued. But I have another angle to it as well, because in every answer that I've gone through, most of the people have actually said, why are we even doing this? Why are we not just stopping this? And I know that this is what we have from the Affordable Housing Agreement. And no matter how many times we have explained that this is something, it's not in our hand, it's a state issue, people still keep thinking that it is a township, it's under the jurisdiction of township, and we can change this. So I would actually recommend, and I know the judge has said redevelopment agreement needs to be signed by December. I would actually request our attorney to go back to the judge and request to push this out to January, at least for those TC members who will come as a new TC member next year. They can vote on what they would like to do on this. And if they want to say no, sure, we'll see what happens after. But as far as the answer goes towards the excavation versus capping, I would go with excavation. This decision has been lying there for close to 2 years, or another month if we request the extension. If we get that granted, I think let's give a chance to the other TC members as well, so it is not rushed into. Again, that is my opinion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
As I said, I also support the excavation. I think one of the main benefits of it is it's done and then it's over. As we've seen with other projects, including the one at the parking lot off of Essex Street, which was from many years ago before. I'm not even sure we were all the voting age when that was decided. But the costs just keep on coming year after year, multiple inspections, and we know from the capping that there is a period where inspections will be required every couple of years, and who knows what those would turn up. So to me, it just get it over with, get it done, and be rid of it.
Ms. Prupus?
I'm abstaining from this decision. I'm really hoping that Ben and Frank get elected in November and that this building doesn't get built.
Okay, fair enough. Ms. Romano?
I also agree that the excavating is the way to go. I mean, as far as what Deputy Mayor Vinayak said, I think that would be a question for Jared. As far as
Pushing it off till
pushing it
January?
off, yeah.
Okay, so
I know.
let's do
I couldn't
this.
answer that, so.
Why don't we ask Jared? And then we'll come back with that answer. Alex has just lost the last hair in his head. We'll, let's,
Mayor.
let's ask, yep. Let's ask Jared. Let's ask Jared. I'm sure the judge isn't going to be happy about it. We can ask his opinion. We have till December 6th. We have another meeting before December 6th where we can then make a decision at that meeting. And in the meanwhile, then that gives us today's October 18th,
And
17th.
Mayor,
Thank you. Then we
Mayor, I
can,
have a comment too.
yes, sir.
So Jared, who is our attorney, he
Yeah.
will do what we request him to do or what we ask him to do.
Sure,
It will be on the judge if he agrees or not.
correct.
I would say that we arm him and give him that thing that we are interested of him going to the judge and at least requesting a date rather than just taking his input. He has given us input a lot of times that we need to get this done. I'm still saying between December and January, we should at least go out to the judge, reach out to him or her, sorry, and take it from there.
Okay, I hear you.
Mayor, can I
Thank
just,
you.
Oh, I
make a
know you
comment?
shall.
Yeah, I just have to put on the record that the clock is passing quickly, and December 6th is not far away in order to get this redevelopment agreement done, especially if the decision is for full excavation, because that's going to require significant negotiation and drafting of those provisions as to how that's going to be monitored, how it's going to be paid for, how a question of when it's done is decided. There's a lot of issues about truck routes for the 60 days or more of caravans of the trucks in and out to the site. So there's a lot of details there. And until I think that Mr. Cantor, Jared Cantor would say, until there is relief from that order that the judge issued, we have that date. And I have been instructed as part of the court order to advise the judge after tonight of where things stand. She said she was going to keep a very close watch on it. She was very annoyed that we had not gotten it done yet. And so I will be reporting to her tomorrow that the decision hasn't been made yet. And as I understand it, is the request of the majority of the council to ask Mr. Cantor to approach the court for an extension into next year. Because if so, I
Mr.
should put
Vinayak,
that-
I think Mr. Vinayak said that was something he wanted to do. Ms. Prupus is abstaining or voting no. Ms. Romano, if you said you thought you could speak to Jared. So it looks like it would be 2-2 with an abstention.
to do what?
So in other words, if you're going to have Jared speak to, if you have
Oh, on that question.
on that question.
Yeah. So that means that there's no movement in that direction. And that means if it's 2-2 with an abstention, and maybe we should take a vote so that we know for sure. And I can advise the court of that. But if that's the outcome, then we have to just go right ahead and we need to make that decision about what to do about remediation.
I don't understand why you can't do the work you need to do in the remediation agreement, assuming that it will be the excavation. To me, that's separate from, you can certainly get started on that. That was clearly the sense of the 4 people that voted. So it's rather
Correct.
unlikely that no matter if she allows the extension, doesn't allow the extension. But, if she allowed, I would be rather surprised that would change regardless of who was elected to go to capping. So it wouldn't be, if it goes away at all, then, who could predict that? But to me, you could get started on the work you need to do for the excavation. You should certainly tell the judge as you were, as she demanded you do, of what's happened here. But I don't see why that should hold you up on your work.
Because all 4 people have said excavation,
Right.
excavation, excavation, excavation.
So excavation is the way we'll go. We'll draft a document in that direction.
Right.
And on the subject of approaching the court about an extension, I should report to her fully
Yes.
Yeah.
about
Yes.
whether you're
Yes.
gonna do that or not.
Yes.
And is there a decision?
I agree with Mr. Cohen. I
Say
agree
it,
with Mr. Cohen. We could do this concurrently. I mean, we don't have to start the work, but you can continue to work on the redevelopment agreement, but we don't have to vote final yea or nay until January.
Well, if there's going to be a request to extend the date, that request has to be made very quickly on an emergent basis, in effect. Because otherwise the date is going to be here. Remember,
December
we're in the
6th.
middle of October. We have election day, which is something of a distraction sometimes. We have the League of Municipality Convention. We have Thanksgiving. That's a lot of November in terms of our ability to communicate with the consultants and the other parties here. So there's no time to waste. And if the court is going to be considering a request to extend the time, the decision to make that request should be made tonight, or you might as well forget about an extension.
Mr. Marazzi, the same thing we could use in our favor as well. If November timeframe is gone with all these events, that's why it got delayed, our request got delayed. I really don't want to rush into and get under pressure on making those decisions right on the spot. Again, that is my opinion, that is my say, and I'm going to stick by it. I am not ready to vote for this. I would rather give a chance to the new TC members coming in to take the reign from here on or thereon.
I think what I need guidance on is whether I should include in the report to the judge that there is going to be a request made to her.
I don't think so. You should just focus on the redevelopment agreement. Let Mr. Cantor handle that.
Well, I have been instructed and ordered by the court at the last hearing we had to advise her of where we are and where things are.
Just you, not Mr. Cantor?
Me, because I am the person who responded to her about the status of the negotiations of the redevelopment agreement, because that's my slice of this work.
I see.
Mr. Cantor is dealing with the settlement agreement and the judgment of compliance and repose, which required that the settlement, that the redevelopment agreement and the financial agreement be adopted months back. And my assignment is to get those done. So she instructed me and was very clear, very direct, and very upset, and instructed me to advise her after tonight of where we stand. So I don't want to send her a letter that's silent on the subject of a potential motion to her if it's been discussed in public.
She is also aware, though, that RPM dragged their feet as well. Is she not? I mean,
I don't think that's the main.
I think she should know that, though.
I don't think that it's entirely the situation. There has been a delay on both sides, yes, but she's focusing her pointed finger at the township, not RPM. We chose RPM, she didn't, so she's putting us on the spot to deliver. So all I'm saying is, if there is a desire to ask Mr. Cantor, I need to tell her that. Otherwise, I am in a position of unprofessional conduct before
We
the
don't want
court.
that.
Mr. Marazzi, I mean, you have to do what you have to do, but with
Yeah.
all the surveys reading that I was doing, even though people have asked for excavation, everyone is opposing this. They are very upset. I understand judge is upset, but everybody else in the township is upset too. And I know that we got to do this, but township residents are kind of driven in a different direction that we can get away from it, including some of the members that are sitting here. So I would not want to vote yes on this. And based on whatever you come out here, on your professional experience and your honesty, you have to go back to the judge accordingly. Whether you give that survey results to her as well, it's totally up to you.
I think
But
it's.
it can't be up to, sorry, excuse
Yes,
me,
go
but it
ahead.
can't be up to Joe for him to decide what he's gonna go ask the judge. It has to be up to us to give our professional direction. So it's either we ask Joe tonight
Excuse me.
to send the letter to the judge saying either we will be ready to sign, have a document signed on December 6th, or we're asking for an extension for a document to be signed or not signed in January. But Joe doesn't make, no offense, Joe.
No,
Joe's not
thank you.
making
I
a
don't
decision
know.
tonight. It's the committee members that are making
That's
a
right. I'm
decision.
looking for guidance.
So I think you need to take a vote on whether tonight Joe goes ask for an extension until January or not.
Well, I don't think Joe can ask for extension. It needs to be
Yes,
Mr.
he
Cantor.
can. That's the whole thing,
I-
Sanjeev,
If I
right?
could clarify.
No, he was
I-
talking about letting the judge know, not taking the extension.
No, read the
Can I just clarify?
relevant
Yeah. I have a clear understanding that I'm going to advise the court that I've been instructed to draft the documents for full remediation. That's easy. The question that I need guidance about, and it's not my decision, you're exactly right, is whether to tell the judge that she should expect to hear from, not me, but from Mr. Cantor, to make a request for an extension of the time to approve the redevelopment agreement to January. That's it.
Can I just interject real quick? Mr. Mariziti, depending on the vote of the township committee following a motion, to decide whether to ask for an extension or not, is there any reason that you and Mr. Cantor can't provide the update at the same time with the judge?
When I'm providing the update.
I understand, but Mr. Cantor
Cantor,
can also join you and say, by the way,
I think
we
he
want you
has,
to know.
he's gonna have to make a motion.
I understand,
Yeah.
but so that he can be the one
Yeah,
that to
so-
deliver that as well.
Whether it's he or me, somebody needs to make a decision tonight as to whether that request is going to be made, because it has to be made promptly, why? Because it has to be made by a formal notice of motion to serve on fair share and RPN and the other parties to the settlement agreement. It's not just between the township and the court. So she has to set a hearing. She has to hear from the other parties. So it's a question of, that's why I'm saying the decision as to whether to request that release should be made tonight. And either one of us can tell her. I mean, I would expect if you want to do this, I would write a letter in the morning telling her that Mr. Cantor has been asked to file a motion, and then he'll file the motion.
It's two separate things.
Yeah, two separate things. But the question is, you want to do that?
It's given what happened, I think the sense is that we do. I mean, I know that we're playing with fire here, given the way you reported how she.
You are.
How her attitude toward the township, but that, Mr. Benoit is right, that is what those comments were in the survey, I read them too.
Mhm.
And I get the sense that you're not gonna abstain on that you're gonna vote on that motion to make that letter, or you're abstaining on that too.
To have it signed in January?
Yeah.
Sure.
So there you go, I mean, there's a majority right there, so, yeah, go
I
ahead.
think there should be
A vote,
Yeah.
a formal vote.
because it's a significant thing for the court, so I think there should be a vote.
So there's two separate things we're talking about. One is that
Someone's gonna make a motion.
make a
Yes.
motion that,
Do the easy one first.
yes, would like to make a motion that the township committee would like to see the land excavated on Main Street.
And what would you do, Mr. Maraziti, if we don't vote on the second one?
I'm having trouble.
It would just be
hearing
on the
you clearly.
6th.
Did you ask what would happen if there's not a vote on the second one?
Yes,
Yeah, so then I would simply advise that the request has been made to me to draft the agreement with the full excavation.
And that would have to be signed on the 6th of December.
That's right,
Nothing changes.
that's right.
okay.
Right. So the motion is on the table. If we could have a second that the land for 9 Main Street will be excavated. Second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus? Abstention and vote for Ben and Frank.
Ms. Romano,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Banayak,
Yes,
Mayor, I'm sorry, you said yes?
yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. Mr. Benayak, you want to make that motion then?
No, I don't want to vote. I don't even want to create any motion here.
It's direction now.
So you don't want to sign, you don't want to have the agreement signed in January, you still want it to be put forth to the township committee on December sixth?
Ms.
The
Frugus, I
redevelopment
know what
agreement?
I'm talking about. You don't need to explain. I said I don't want to vote tonight.
Okay.
You have
Anyone
obtained
else want to put
yourself.
that motion forward?
Seriously, yeah. You keep talking about Ben and Frank. There's Charu and
Oh.
Bruce here too. So they could be in there and very.
Come on,
likely
folks, we are
making
not
this decision.
politicking, please. Thank you.
So please,
Is anyone else gonna put that motion forward?
You can.
I saw my motion, it wasn't my idea.
so then
Who's
I
Mr.
I don't know why you're even asking the question.
It was, right, you were the one that proposed it, Sanjeev, that's why.
I know what I'm talking about and I know exactly what I need to do. You
Okay,
don't need to tell me.
We don't have a second proposal.
okay.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Move on.org. Okay.
Well,
Well,
Okay, thank you.
And you've been directed. Okay, here we go. We have public comment now. So many of you are new this evening. Welcome. So you know, because if you're not used to the way we do things in the Township Committee, this is a business meeting. So we take public comment and you're allowed 3 minutes to speak. And we don't have public dialogue. It's just public comment. At the conclusion of public comment, if the members on the dais or our professionals wish to speak to the things you brought up, they will. If they don't wish to, they don't have to. You can also email anybody on the Township Committee. You can find our email addresses right on the website if you have any further questions. So when invited to speak, to offer your comments, please come to the lectern, state your name and whether you're a Milburn resident and or property or business owner. We don't want your address. For the convenience of the community, there is a remote option available. If you called in and would like to comment, please press *6 now. If you're attending by computer or electronic device, please click the raise hand button and be sure your video is on when you comment. All members of the public wishing to speak will be put into the queue to address the committee. To help make sure that everyone is heard, speakers shall be limited to 1 3-minute session, and you'll be prompted when there's 30 seconds remaining. So there's no dialogue or debate, and we will speak to you after the conclusion of public comment. We're all neighbors and friends, so please let's be respectful to each other. And I will now open the public comment period. Thank you.
Good evening, Charlie Bambara, Milburn resident for 27 years. I'm going to lighten the mood a little bit and talk about something entirely different than the topic at hand. I have 2 traffic suggestions, having driven around town. First, thank you for putting the light at the intersection of White Oak Ridge and Hobart. However, I invite all of you to travel southbound on White Oak Ridge Road and try to make a left turn at that light without a left turn signal. The cars come around that bend and you can't see them coming. And they just come one after the other, and your heart's in your mouth on whether or not you should make that left turn or not. So please consider that. Second thing, I just saw it tonight, making a left turn off of Essex Street into the street that passes on this side of, on the west side
Town Hall
of the,
Plaza?
where the parking is for the township. It's
Town Hall
not
Plaza? Town Hall Plaza.
Town Hall Plaza, making a left in there. What used to be the northbound lane there is blocked.
Yeah.
That's a nice place to put a few angle spots if you're looking for a few more spots, because there's nothing happening there.
Okay.
And that's all I have to say. And thank you for making the right decision on the excavation.
Thank you, Mr. You're good.
Hi, Ben Stoller, Milburn resident, running for Township Committee. Leadership is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those you're in charge of. Let's all remember that. That was by Barack Obama, okay? Leadership's about standing up and shaking the police officer's hand the first time. Thank you, Mr. Mariziti. It's about representing the residents' needs in the middle of the night when a decision is being made that's going to affect all the residents during their stay in our beautiful town. I'm talking about affordable housing. I'm talking about the HPC designation of a Marywood Nottingham in the business unit without their input. We need leadership on this township committee. When I created Concerned Milburn Residents, and I went in front of the judge to talk about residents' voice at the table as it pertains to affordable housing, the judge, Mr. Mariziti, said 5 people are elected. They represent your interests as residents. She said, if you want to change that, vote them out. So that's what I'm doing. We're going to vote them out. And we're going to put people who care about residents in that place. I also think that, for the record, we're flawed because you put that survey out without any mention of the 3 underground fuel tanks that may or may not be damaged and or creating environmental issues. We should have had all the information about the dump site prior to that survey ever going out. I'll never get back the 20 minutes of time that Mr. Vinayak just wasted by putting forward an idea and then scrapping it at the end. It's abhorrent. My question for the Township Committee is, where are we on this citizens action group? We've been talking about this now for over a year and a half. Why has that not been moved forward yet? Thank you. And in the words of our former Lieutenant Governor, Sheila Oliver, show up, stand up, and speak up. It's our right as residents.
Thank you, Mayor and TC members. My name is David Elephant, and I have been a resident homeowner of Short Hills for more than 30 years. There is not enough time tonight to discuss the appropriateness of the HPC's actions or the efficacy of any report that they may have commissioned, or the negative downstream impact of the historic districting and residential nominations that they have initiated. I'd rather speak to you person to person, human to human. The demographics of this community have changed significantly since I moved to town in 1990. The needs and the desires of the current residents is what matters most. I dare say if each household today were to make a list of their top 10 need, desire, requiring township involvement, policy and procedure making, absent from that list would be historic preservation. I come here today to say no to all historic districting and unilateral nominations. Perhaps some of you were present at the October 5th HPC meeting. Others of you have watched the videos. Certainly you've heard firsthand accounts. Tensions are high, frustrations are mounting, emotions are raw. As the leaders of this community, we are looking to you to set the tone. It is my request that you listen to the outcry of your constituents, and as the elected officials of this community, do whatever you need to do. Work with your town administrators. Work with your legal counsel. This is my ask. terminate the actions of the HPC, terminate the Marywood Nottingham Historic Districting, make null and void each residential nomination, send a letter to every household on that list that they can immediately and permanently ignore the written communication dated September 15 from Crystal Woods, the Secretary of HPC. How you handle this issue, it will be your legacy. Listen to your neighbors, listen to us. Do not mention the autocratic decision-making, policy-making of a few. Thank you
Mr.
so much.
Elephant. Thank
I
you.
have written to submit,
You can
please,
leave it with that.
and I have
Thank you.
extra copies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Svetan Bevoreshki. I'm a resident of Short Hills.
I'm sorry, would you say your name again, please?
I would. Svetan Bevoreshki.
Thank you, sir.
As you can tell from my name, I'm foreign born, and this is the first time I'm speaking at a township committee. So
Welcome.
in that sense, it's exciting. Before I even start, and I understand it's eating my time, I happen not to be Jewish. I still want to commend you for what you did.
Thank you.
I'm an economist too. And I was telling somebody that I chose not to write a dissertation because I felt that we write on topics that nobody ends up reading. I work in a place where we dig up papers to do damages analysis and whatnot. So I never thought that this would come in handy in my personal life. I dug up a paper that somebody wrote at the College of New Jersey that focuses on examining the impact of designating properties as historic. This is an important thing. Why? First, we have to talk about cost benefits. I still don't know, having received the letter, what the benefits, potential benefits to me and the community are. Let's talk about cost. If I or my neighbors or my community felt that having the historic designation would be a plus, they'll be beating down your doors. Nobody is, which means that the benefit is capped at 0. What are the costs? Based on that study, and again, it was done by the College of New Jersey. It examined properties in the state of New Jersey over the time frame between 2002 and 2011. And I will quote you from the abstract. The study analyzes the effect of historic designation of property values in the state of New Jersey. We find the historic designation decreases real prices for properties within the historic district by 18.2%. 18.2%. Multiply that by the values of the houses that will be impacted. And that's a property value distraction into the tune of 50 or 60 or perhaps more $1 million. To give you a more personal context, I don't know what the young family that bought a house across from me paid for their house and how much they put down. But if they put down 20%, their equity is gone. That 20% is enough to put my kids through college. I'm a single dad, they lost their mom. We are talking numbers that are substantial, that will cause pain. And please keep in mind that it's not going to cause pain only for us who are directly affected. This property value destruction will have to be redistributed to our neighbors outside of the district through property taxes in order to make the shortfall. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I have copies of
Yeah, you
the
can
paper.
leave it. Thank you. Go ahead.
On topic, please switch. Sure. Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening. Nice to meet you all. I've never met any of you.
Your name is?
My name is Mia Gregory. I am a resident.
Mia
Have
Gregory.
been for about 5 years, sometime early COVID, something around there. I haven't prepared anything necessarily, but I'm going to speak about what I have thought about a lot today when I knew I was going to come here today. So we touched at the beginning of the session, obviously. It's been a really sad couple of weeks. Like it really has been, I think, for the world.
Mm.
Lots of people in this room as well. And so with all due respect, and it's very nice to meet you all, this is not where I want to be right now. It's really not. I want to be at home with my kids. That's where I want to be spending my time. But I feel it's deeply important to be here so that I can stand here and say that like we matter. Like we are the residents, we are your neighbors, we are the people that you are meant to be representing. And I don't feel represented. I don't feel engaged. I sat in that HPC meeting a few weeks ago as well, silently, as many of us did, because we were not given the opportunity to speak. And it's very frustrating to feel like you're not part of a community. And I think in the world right now, that kind of is an important thing, that you actually feel that the people that you share your area, your suburb with, your home with, actually care about you and care about your well-being. And there is a lot of people that don't feel that right now. And I'm one of those, and as is my family. And so I just really wanted to actually share that with you, that this is a really deeply personal thing to a lot of people. And there are decisions that have, and lots of the comments that have been made, a lot of the decisions that have been made by very few to impact very many. It's just not what I expected when I moved to this country. As you can hear, I'm not American. I have an American child, if that counts. But it's not what I expected when I moved to this country. It's not what I expected when I moved to this township. And so I am hopeful that there is actually going to be some engagement and discussion, and that is going to be taken seriously. That is my hope. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Swagato Acharji. I'm the resident of Marywood, Nottingham neighborhood. So I'm here to register my protest against the hastily made decision to designate Marywood, Nottingham as a historic district. I understand that the nomination has been tabled for now, and according to the chair statement, there is a plan to individually nominate the 3 districts at a later time. My rough calculation, as was also mentioned before, indicates that it's around a $50 million impact to home valuations of the 153 affected homeowners. This number is of the same order of magnitude, I believe, as their annual township budget. We get frequent messages about road closures, bad weather, keeping cars locked, from the township. However, such a consequential decision with such a large impact was taken without any resident input, and affected residents were privately informed by certified mail with the minimum possible notice. There was not a single email sent out, no consultations, no townwide surveys, and no studies done as to the economic impact of this decision. Very recently, as was also mentioned, the town was doing a survey for remediation of the dump. I wonder why we never did a survey for this HPC designation, which has a much, much larger impact. There was no public meeting and there was no townwide emails. If we take a look at the neighborhood itself, there is nothing of historical significance. No important person lived here. There were no wars fought here. There were no historical events. Most folks who live here and have lived over the last 100 years or so are law-abiding common citizens. Many are hardworking first-generation immigrants. And honestly, they're not in a position to deal with the bureaucracy of maintaining a historic home, with their right to private property being taken away. I humbly request the TC to urge the HPC to immediately, permanently terminate this historic districting designation. And in the future, if any such redistricting is proposed, the TC and the HPC should do it only if there is a large majority of affected homeowners who are in agreement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening all. Charu Goyal, Melbourne resident. Over the recent few days, I have observed, and that's what I wanted to share with everyone, a concerning trend in the campaign landscape where the principles of integrity and transparency to me seem to be at risk. In contrast, my commitment lies in upholding truthfulness, positivity, and constructive engagement. I've had the privilege of engaging with the esteemed residents of Nottingham Marywood, and I wish to underscore the indispensable nature of their input. Decisions of consequence should not be made in the absence of meaningful community involvement. Next, regarding the matter of the 75 segregated units, it is good to see that the decision needs to be reevaluated with the postponement to January. I am resolute in my dedication to collaborating judiciously with legislature, with the state, with the residents, sensibly, and with the professionals to ensure an outcome that reflects the collective interest of Melbourne. In pursuit of comprehensive transparency, I propose the establishment of a residential roundtable and a dedicated community liaison. These measures are designed to ensure that the voices of all residents are not only heard, but also instrumental in shaping every pivotal decision. Additionally, I wish to address the pressing issue of flood mitigation. Having engaged with the concerned residents of South Mountain, it is a bigger issue in Melbourne, more than anything else. It is evident that we must persist in our efforts to rectify a solution that has persisted for almost 40 years. And that has impacted a lot of residents in South Mountain area. I have taken it upon myself to communicate directly with residents, and I can see that a lot of residents in Melbourne are now concerned with integrity, transparency, and trust. To quote Congressman John Lewis, democracy is not a state, but an act. It is with this understanding that I emphasize the importance of strong and honest leadership, a leadership that confronts issues like flood mitigation, ensures transparency, and addresses the critical matter of affordable housing with prudence and consideration, and the matters related to HPC. I am standing with all of the residents that were not involved in their input, and I will stand by them. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jerry Kung. I'm a Melbourne resident. I wasn't intending to speak about this, but I am a little bit disturbed that the previous speaker just came up here to talk about honesty, integrity, and transparency. Because full disclosure, I work on the opposing campaign, and there was a press release about precisely different candidates meeting with a group of Marywood Nottingham residents. And the opposing campaign represent the candidate who is just speaking up here. They put out a letter to the editor exactly, 10 days after the original press release with parts that were blatantly plagiarized from the original. And why do I know this? Because I was up on Friday evening, I was looking in the tab, and I saw a letter to the editor, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, I wrote this, except the names Ben and Frank have been subbed out for Charu and Bruce. You don't know how angry I was. I'm sorry. I'm generally a measured individual. I have never had my writing blatantly plagiarized. This is disgusting behavior. And to stand up here and say you're standing for honesty, integrity, and transparency, I encourage this community to do better. Okay, so tonight we're going to post the evidence of this plagiarism on the campaign website. It's not up yet, but it can be found at voteformelbourne.com/copycat. And we will be posting this for the entire community to see. So I'm going to take a little moment to collect myself again, because when I read this on Friday, I had this feeling of deja vu, because I know how, I write, and other people generally don't write the same way that I write. But when I see my own writing blatantly plagiarized and copied, I sent a notice to the editor at the top. And the original version was removed. So if you go on tap right now, you'll see a slightly modified version that is still plagiarized in certain places. So that's all I had to say. If someone's standing up here talking about honesty, integrity, and transparency, I urge the community to consider their actions and not their words. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Feld. Wait. Can we calm down, please? I live in the poet section of Short Hills. I am a proud complainer. This company, Country, was founded by complainers. Earlier this evening, we heard that the library talked about the loss of liberty. Why is more weight given to the trustees than to all the citizens in this community who've been fighting for 3 years for our liberty and our right to be heard prior to the fair share housing settlement? Now, again, the theme here is the fox guarding the hen house. Prior to this meeting, the public should know I sent 4 emails of various questions and exhibits to my public officials and retained professionals asking to meet with you and to discuss my questions. No response. Someone has to monitor the work product of the municipal attorney. I told you about an ad, public notice by the city of Newark about their sale of contaminated property and the process and methodology. They're not selling a piece of property for $1. They're getting $500,000. There's a methodology. How come we're not doing the same methodology? Where you figure out what to get an appraisal, what is the value, deduct the cost of the remediation, and the net number is what we get. What we're doing is we're paying, getting them by the dollar, and we're doing the cost of the remediation. What world do we live in? As to the bill list, I'm going to switch to the bill list, the agenda. $125,000 for a down payment for 22 Willow Court. What authorized that? You had a budget. Was it in the budget? If you're doing a new appropriation, how are you going to do it? You haven't approved the sale. That's not on until next November. Under what authority and under the local budget law, how are you using $125,000 of our money to buy a property that you haven't shared the appraisal with the public, you haven't shared the contract of sale, and you don't even have the ordinance is not to be heard till November 19th. Now it gets to the real heart of the issue tonight. There's a resolution. We heard about playing with fire. Tonight, you have to adopt the manual. The question is, why didn't we do it? First, why didn't we do it in connection with the Upton? Why we didn't do it in connection with Woodland? And why we didn't do it for Wells Fargo? This was a ministerial act to adopt this manual. Someone tonight has to be held accountable for the delay. The judge went nuts. She wasn't playing with fire. We were this close being held in contempt of a court order. I watched the meeting. We were inches away being held in contempt. And she has a motion out there still whether to impose sanctions. Tonight, this public is entitled to know who dropped the ball.
Thank you, Mr. Feld.
I just have to say, everyone vote, vote,
Thank you, Mr.
vote,
Feld.
vote on
Thank
both
you,
sides of
thank
the
you,
ballot.
Mr.
If you
Feld.
don't vote, you have
Mr.
no right to
Feld,
complain.
Mr. Feld, thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's not meant for short people.
There you go.
Hi.
Good evening.
Sorry,
Jess,
it's
wanna
not
start
made
the
for
time?
short people. Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm right side up tonight. You wanted open video.
I can see you right side up too.
Thank you. I'm sunny side up. Good evening, Perry Urso, 514 Milburn Avenue in Short Hills. I did attend the case management hearing for Bear Properties on Thursday, October 14th. And yes, the judge did finally enter a confidentiality agreement regards the propriety of the commercial leases. Still wondering what difference do they make anyways, because you might as well get the rest of the property owners' leases as well, Mr. Maritziti. Since then, they have been produced. At the conference, the town raised for the first time that certain paragraphs in the complaint would be deleted. We agreed to specifically to delete paragraphs referencing monetary damages, because that's not what this lawsuit's about. And if you came forward 3 years ago, we wouldn't be here today. Well, we all understand that this is a prerogative writ action, that in the event that the Bear Properties does prevail, they will be entitled to the disgorgements of all special assessments paid to the township. No taxation. We objected to deleting any paragraphs relating to our no taxation without representation claim. We have complied, and now it's time to mediate and no longer litigate. This statutory interpretation dispute, where no municipal attorney has provided a written opinion regarding the validity of the expanded 5-district SID under state law. But what I have heard tonight and continually at other meetings, everything is referred to downtown. Also, unfortunately, to the conflict, I was unable to view the Indian American Association Public Forum on Sunday, October 15th, 2022. Also, sorry, 23, thank you. Also, the cost of the Oprahs were raised during the same forum. Well, if it wasn't for those Oprahs, the public would not know about the understaffing of police department and the $2 million overpayment the township attorney, coincidentally, Township Attorney Mazzariti, has stated during public comments multiple times that basically, in my opinion, it's too bad for the taxpayers, for the TC members have approved the payments through the bill list. Just shameful. However, a friendly reminder that since January, those Oprahs are in his $20,000 retainer, monthly retainer. Also, a certain slate of candidates singled out our family, together with attorney resident Mr. Feld. For what reason, other than exercising our constitutional right for a free speech and our right to petition the government? I truly believe in my heart that this type of treatment is not necessary, and certainly, in my opinion, there is absolutely no room for this behavior in Milburn.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you for your time tonight. We'll work on that. Ms. Goyle, good evening, I'm Perry Urso. I just want to introduce myself, so you know who you're talking about. Thank you so much. You can shake my hand. Be a lady.
Excuse me, we have a business meeting, please. Thank you, Mrs. Urso. Sir.
Hi, my name is Garen Sarafian. I am a resident of Short Hills, New Jersey. Been here for since 2010, so nearing 14 years.
13 years.
I have nothing.
Would you say your name
prepared.
again? I apologize.
Sure, Garen, Garen Sarafian.
Thank
you. I'm just here to officially note that I am against the historic districting. I usually don't pay attention to much of these things that go on in town, but received a letter and it sounded pretty important. So I came and it felt like it was being rushed, and I came here and it was even worse to the committee, the HPC committee, that requested that they be heard, but then at the end, they said, oh, basically, well, we're not gonna hear anything, and we're gonna divide you into 4 groups and get you smaller size and take your protest done. That was all not the right way to do it. So I think that we need to take the time to review it, and I think you do need to convince the people that you're representing why this is such a good idea. Because, I mean, there's nobody here for historic districting. This is all opposed. Like, nobody's here defending it. So I just want to be educated. I know the negatives. I just don't know the positives. So until then, we all bought our houses as a historic district. So we need to be convinced, or else, unless the majority wants it, it shouldn't be done. But yeah, so I would say go slow, make sure you get everyone's input, and then decide. And right now, I think you're getting an indication that it's an overwhelming no by the people who are speaking against it.
Thank you.
Hi, Nelson Props. I'm not a good. Okay, give me 1 second and I'm just gonna start 1 second. I guess we start anyhow. Okay, so I wanted to have a raffle tonight for you guys on the dais.
Can't do it. Can't
It's a
do it.
fake raffle. It's all
Can't
active.
do it.
Show me where that is in the rules. All right, I'm gonna just call out the things that I wanted to give to you guys. Since Maggie just makes, I can't do anything. I can't show pictures of the damages. I'm giving a raffle to commemorate the 4+ months of my neighborhood, the Fairfield Estate sections.
Miss Best, we're up here.
I can look
We're
at
up,
it,
but
but I
this
can
is
look
a
at anybody I
business
want,
meeting.
Maggie.
You need
I
to
know,
talk to
you can
us.
hear me fine. I don't need to look at you.
If
in
you'd
the
like
eye.
us
You
to
don't
respond
need
to you, you
fine.
need to look at us.
So
Miss
anyhow,
Best.
I wanted to commemorate all the dust and the asphalt chips that I get to sweep up that takes me hours every week because we don't have street sweepers, even though I pay 28 grand a year in taxes, which isn't that much, I guess, for Short Hills. But I get to pick them all up and it gets in my dog's paws. And so I wanted to give to you guys a raffle. It's hand signed and it is hand collected by moi. And there's 2 of them. And I'm also going to give you as raffle items the coriander citrus soap to wash your hands afterwards, coffee and soap. So, and then I also assigned the top, and I will give you my full trash can because I didn't want to bring it in and get criticized for bringing too much stuff in. But it is hand signed by me, and it is vintage Home Depot a couple of years ago. And it has a nice tractor mark on the bottom of it from PSE&G. And then this is my favorite cheap broom from Home Depot that I use to sweep the asphalt crumbles in front of my driveway that's putting tar in my driveway all the time. Signed by me, and it's from 1017. I'm sorry, it's from 2001. Very vintage Home Depot. It's probably $29.99. Anyhow, I probably have no time left because I had to spend time arguing with Miss Miggins. But also this can double as a witch's broom for Halloween for anybody who wants it. And I'm sorry that I couldn't have my little fun raffle, Maggie, and couldn't have a little joke. Anyhow, I have very little time to talk. So Alex, I just want to bring up some points. I'm thankful that you talked to PSE&G and they came and did about a 30% cleanup fest, but basically you need to clean up all the road debris that's everywhere and that has to be sealed. And by the way, that is going to mix with the leaves and you said nothing else can mix with the leaves and there's asphalt crumbs all mixed in with the leaves. So you have to figure that out, okay? And then I wanted to say, I didn't appreciate the joke telling me that I'm over the top on my point of view. I'm not over the top, okay? You did, just go back and look at the history in the notes. And in terms of what Cifelli Brothers has done, you have grading problems on your road. Anybody who has half a brain, went to art school, you don't even, whatever. You have grading problems, okay? It's a mess. You can't have a 12-inch curb and a 5-inch curb and then have a hill and have it go down and tell me, oh, it's gonna be fine when we mill and pave. The road is already where it is, unless you're planning on like rebuilding in some weird fashion. I really don't know, but you're gonna have drainage problems and you need to address it.
Thank you, Ms. Best.
Thanks for not playing that.
It's a business meeting.
Well, this is my business. I pay taxes here.
So do I.
Oh, we all do.
Sorry, no props. I would like to start by thanking not only the TC members for their service to the community, but also the candidates that are running from both sides. This is obviously a very difficult position, and it seems many times, no matter what decision you make, half the town is going to be unhappy. So kudos to all of you and all the candidates for volunteering your time and effort. A couple of items. I was going to share comments from a professional environmental engineer on the cap excavate question, but as the decision was taken to move with excavate, which I believe is the right decision, I will skip that. And I'm not a resident in one of the proposed new historic districts, but as someone that was negatively impacted by zoning changes in 2021, I stand with those that are opposing the new historic districts. On the agenda tonight, I believe is a discussion on the two-way traffic plan. I've spoken to many residents in town, and I would say the vast majority are completely unaware of any discussions on two-way traffic, probably no surprise to you. There are some that are aware, some that attend this meeting on a regular basis, and I've asked each one of them what they think the objectives of the two-way traffic are. And I'm not here to argue for or against it, but what I think the TC needs to do is to communicate to the public why we are doing this, what the benefits are going to be, measure beforehand. If, for example, you say we want to improve safety, measure beforehand what the safety statistics are. 6 months later, measure again, show it. If you're going to say it's for improved traffic flow, measure the traffic flow before, communicate, set what your goals are. We want to improve it by X%, measure it later and communicate back. Let's not have another complete street situation. Communicate in advance to the community what the goals are, solicit input, measure before, measure after, and then declare success or failure if that's the case. And that's it for me. Thank you all and have a wonderful evening.
My name is Dr. Michael Williams. I have an 1884 Queen Anne home in Short Hills. I moved to Short Hills after owning and refurbishing 3 antique homes in the greater Northeast. To come here, I'm not a community activist. This is only the third time I've been here in front of this board, if you will. Twice was to have the home we bought here, various approvals to have things done. I come here because last week when I was in London for 2 weeks and got home and saw this letter that you sent. I'm here to thank you because you have made me now a community activist. The arrogance and ignorance of the people who I'm looking at, with all due respect to you, you have a lot of nerve. So the idea of not communicating this to this public and myself especially, someone who has a deep architectural understanding, interest, and love affair with antique homes, it's absolutely appalling. And if you think I'm having a tough time, you ought to meet my wife. So we're in a position where, so you understand clearly, those of us who have these kinds of homes love them, cherish them, and put hundreds of thousands of dollars in them. I don't know if any of you have the same kind of investment. If you decide to mess around with my property value, I'll be here a lot, and it's because of you. So I wish you well, and I wish you to have the right decision, but do not believe that you have not activated a giant. And you see the people around me, we will be here every single week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on, Mr. Carlin. We haven't seen you in a few weeks and we're missing you.
Well, yes, okay, well, okay. Thank you very much. I'm just thinking about, excuse me, why things go wrong with the Peter Principle. In a hierarchy, individuals tend to rise to their levels of incompetence. Well, we know that. Okay, the Township Employee Indemnification Ordinance, including the committee with a paid defense. That's on the agenda, is it not, for new business? The South Mountain residents I have spoken to are solidly against expansion of protections currently in place. If an individual steals, why should the taxpayer pay for the criminal defense? If township committee members are uncomfortable with the status quo, resignation is an option, Mr. Cohen. I am confident several extremely qualified residents are available to fill in vacancies. I do not believe the fear of personal liability will dissuade future candidates. Milburn Township legal expenses are already somewhat high, I believe. Why add the possibility of additional legal expenses? I mean, it's really very, very simple. Other townships have added these issues, defense and indemnification of officials. I read all about this nonsense because I'm single and I'm a nut, but yeah, we don't need it. It's an additional cost. It's an additional liability. If you feel that it's improper or you feel liable. Now, I've been sued a number of times, $1 million. It's for libel and for slander. That was in what, 1982. And of course I won. I didn't have $1.5 million. I'm sued all the time. But there is no reason for the township to pick up that expense. Oh, Mr. Benayak, I do not believe that you should go, to this, what is it, Atlantic City or whatever, on the Milburn dime. I believe Mr. Falk was correct that if you should be elected in the future, that's the time to go. As far as the township, enough. I had a tough day today.
Thank you, Mr. Carlin.
I'm sorry.
It's nice to see you, sir.
No, I mean well.
I know
honestly.
you do. We know you do. Do you want to go to, Jess, do you want to go to the, there's 3 people waiting. Thank you.
Did somebody leave a pen behind on the podium?
Okay, Jess. You have to make Mr. Benayak small, I think. Okay. Go ahead. You want to tell me? You can go, sir. Hello?
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for giving us a chance to make comments, unlike the HPC. I'm Anurag Kadyan. I'm a resident of Short Hills, and our home is in the boundaries of the proposed Marywood Nottingham Historic District. I'm here to reiterate my opposition to this historic designation, just like how I did last time on October 3rd, along with some of my neighbors. We are present here again, and you've heard lots of logical, analytical, as well as emotional reasons for opposition. It's a deeply personal and important issue to each one of us. That's why we were all here. I'm here actually from Houston, Texas today because I'm on a hectic work trip. But instead of doing the work stuff that I was here for, I could not miss this. And that's why I was here. Now, we attended the October 5th HPC meeting to make our opposition very clear, with the strength of our numbers. A large majority of us were present there. We filled this very room up to the brims and beyond. Hopefully, Mayor Miggins, who was there in person watching from the back of the room, also saw that and took note of that opposition in numbers. We were all there at the invitation of the HPC. We were there in a peaceful assembly, but still someone called the police towards the end of the meeting. Now, someone with authority in the township called the deputies on the residents who were sharing their disdain of this historic district designation process. And all we were asking for was an opportunity to be given to speak. That's it. My question is, what was the threat from your fellow residents? What was the threat? We were just asking to be given an opportunity to make comments. You had to call deputies on us? Is this really the democracy of our township? I don't feel represented. I don't feel that I matter to the people who we elected to represent us. when these types of tactics are done. We were shut up, we were shut out, and police was called so that we can be thrown out of the room even. That's the sad state. That's why I'm feeling hurtful. I'm requesting you guys, just like others, to make us feel represented. Please, you all need to do better for us than what we have seen so far over the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's not easy.
Good evening. Jean Pasternak, resident. I have a few comments to make, but I have to stop and compliment the previous commentator resident in his very astute observation about how there is a lack of representation of residents by our elected officials. I'm sorry that you've had to be subject to what has been going on for years with the Township Committee, with police being weaponized against residents by our officials. And I hope that this will be the end of it after a good resident would speak out in such eloquent terms about how egregious this type of behavior is. My other points and questions are this. Could we finally get an answer to how the two projects, the Crescent Park 9/11 Memorial and the Flex parking removal, were paid for, that were supposed to be paid for by a bond that was never issued for these projects? That was the plan. It was not enacted. That was what was told to the taxpayers, and that is not how things went. So exactly how were these projects paid for? Please, can we have that information? Can you please answer the question that's been raised multiple times now, and we still don't have an answer? What monies were used to pay for those projects? Second, can you explain to the public what the pilot payment in lieu of taxes you agreed to for 9 Main Street, 75-unit, 100% segregated income housing project was, and whether any monies from this project will flow to our Board of Education? And what is the basis for the agreement to include that project as a pilot? Thirdly, will you acknowledge that the survey you conducted about the excavation versus other remediation of this toxic dump, why was that survey changed to add a choice of none? Then it was removed again when you were asking residents and polling them as to what they wanted to do with the Main Street toxic cleanup. How is this even a valid survey with that kind of manipulation? Please explain why that was done and why you lean on this survey to guide you. Thank you.
We have one more, Jesse. We have one more.
Oh,
Mr. Sacramento. Thank you.
Good evening. Sarah Sherman, resident. I'd like to begin by thanking Mayor Miggins and the Township Committee for the moving and meaningful candlelight vigil on Thursday night. It was one of the few unifying moments in this community that I can remember for a very long time. I have 2 questions. In light of this evening's police promotions, I have a question about how we use our police officers in the township. So if you would clarify for me, please, because I think there's some misleading information out in the community. Does the Township Committee have any input in the daily deployment of police officers in the township? Or is that entirely the decision of the police command structure? And then my second question, some of us are still not clear on the second motion that did not happen tonight regarding affordable housing. So we would appreciate it if Mr. Mariziti could take some time to clarify that. I know I'm hearing from other people who are slightly confused. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sherman.
Good evening. My name is Frank Sacamandi, and I'm a resident of Milburn Short Hills. I'd like to start by commending the Township Committee and Alex McDonald for so quickly organizing last Thursday's candlelight vigil in support of Israel. It is so important for our Jewish brothers and sisters to know that Milburn stands in solidarity with them during this difficult time. So I commend you all on that.
Thank you.
And now I have a few questions. Why didn't the Township Committee try doing a survey on affordable housing before signing the settlement agreement? How much is it going to cost to remove the underground fuel storage tanks at the dump? We never got an answer on that. It's my understanding that that figure was left out of the remediation costs. Can we get an answer on that tonight? Last year, I publicly asked for the Township Committee to form a citizens advisory group for affordable housing. Tara Krupis pushed for this from the dais as well, but the rest of the Township Committee didn't seem interested. Why hasn't the Township Committee formed the Citizens Affordable Housing Advisory Group? Mayor Miggins, it is my understanding that you are the liaison to the Historic Preservation Commission. Can you please tell us when you first found out about the proposed HPC designation for Marywood, Nottingham, and the other districts? It is my understanding that the Historic Preservation Commission, which at least one person in this room is a member of, has been working on these historic designations for years. So why didn't the Township Committee do a better job of encouraging transparency? And why did some Township Committee members say last meeting that this was the first they were hearing about it? Isn't the HPC liaison supposed to provide the Township Committee with updates about what the Historic Preservation Commission is considering? I'd also like to ask why members of the Historic Preservation Commission didn't let residents know further in advance that significant parts of town were under consideration to be designated historic. I ask because, again, we have a HPC member sitting in the audience who happens to be running for Township Committee. So maybe he can elucidate us as to why this whole process happened with such secrecy. I would also like to ask the Township Committee if it is acceptable for candidates to campaign from the podium during public comment, as we saw Sharu shamelessly doing earlier. It is my understanding that this is certainly frowned upon, but I'd like to know the official policy. I also call on the Township Committee to reject the proposed extension of the indemnification policy for Township Committee members. Why should taxpayers be on the hook for defending a Township Committee member who's potentially facing criminal charges, which may not even be related to the functions of their job? Thank you very much. Have a
Mr.
great evening.
Sacamandi, just to be clear, you're also running for Township Committee in addition to Sharu. Just being clear about that.
Yeah, yes, if people didn't notice all the
Just being clear.
signs with my
Thank
name
you.
and face.
Thank you.
I think we
Thank
make it
you.
clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stoller as well. Everybody's campaigning. The meeting before, Ms. Stone, it has been too long, please. I do miss you, quite frankly. I saw you a few times online, but I haven't seen you in person and it's really.
Like the Terminator said, I'll be back.
You know what? It's nice to see you, Nancy Stone.
Well, I'm happy to see you. And I want to thank you for not running and giving us these two genius candidates. Thank you so
Ms.
much.
Stone,
I know, I'm
behave,
gonna behave.
You get 3 minutes, my friend. Come on, behave.
Thank you, Tara. You finally understand we've had a long history together. Yes, we do. I've gotten, police are here because of me. I told John, you didn't know his name at the time, but I know most of the officers in this town, and he asked very kindly, Nancy behaved, so I don't have to throw you out. I'm giving hope to the previous person that you will be heard, and we are being heard, because I keep fighting the good fight with every fiber of my being. I am not a deplorable. I am not a MAGA. I came up with a new acronym, but I was told I couldn't use it for MAGA. I am not a Trumpster. I can tell you that I'm a Milburnite, and I will fight for this town till I end up in the holy land of Boca Raton. So, with that said, thank you for your endorsement. You're finally on the right side of justice and fighting the good fight, Tara. I really resent that my friend was singled out by a candidate that is running who was picked only 2 weeks after you decided to withdraw your candidacy. She has a business in town for 29 years. She has put her heart and soul into it, into the community, and for her to be targeted the way she has, possibly for a property that she owns in town specifically. She works hard with her husband every day and her daughter, who is now living locally, and she will be voting in this election for Ben and Frank. I can only tell you that it's an embarrassment that someone who was just picked 50 days ago could be spoon-fed garbage about someone who's contributed so much to this community, and she should be ashamed of herself. She's the newbie in town, not Perry. I'm the one who called her a coward, for the record, because she wouldn't show up to the in-person debates. And for her to call everybody else, no, I was the one who did it, and I own it. Because anybody who will not face their opponent publicly, you have to appear in a courtroom. You don't want to appear with a Zoom with another lawyer. You want to face them in person. I really appreciate the fact that Ben and Frank showed up, and they eventually showed up as well. And I just pray to God this community does the right thing.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. I will now close public comment period. Mr. Mariziti, I'm going to start with you. And I see you have a tremendous amount of notes there.
I have a list tonight.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I do.
Thank you.
I'm going to start with the indemnification ordinance because there's certainly a great misunderstanding if people think that an ordinance is about to be adopted that is going to indemnify for criminal acts. There's no such thing. There is an ordinance in Milburn that's been on the books at least since the early 90s, as far as I know, that indemnifies employees, officials for litigation that is brought in their official capacity. It's not, it's explicitly excludes criminal defense. So that's a misunderstanding that should be cleared up. And indemnification of that type is common in every public body I'm aware of. It's not unique to Milburn. It's authorized by state statute, in fact. So then I'll switch to the purchase of 22 East Willow, the proposed purchase. There's been a question about where is the authority to place the down payment of, I think it's $125,000 for the purchase of the property. What should be explained there is that that down payment is refundable if the deal doesn't go through. The payment of that, the final payment of that down payment is contingent upon any number of things. One is a due diligence period to the satisfaction of the township. So the township could determine not to purchase the property, the money would be refunded. It's contingent upon the adoption of a bond ordinance to authorize the issuance of bonds for the purchase of the building and the potential somewhat improvement of the building. If that bond ordinance is not adopted, the transaction ends. It is contingent explicitly in the contract on the adoption of an ordinance under the local lands and buildings law to authorize the purchase of the property by the municipality. The contract contains all that language. The contract has been provided to Mr. Feld through an OPA request. There's been mention of the appraisal. The appraisal also has been provided to Mr. Feld through an OPA request. There's another, we talk all the time about the Bear Properties case, and I have to address it again. The Bear Properties case, just to reiterate, is all about invalidating the creation of the SID, the Business Improvement District. the statement has been made a number of times that there's never been a written opinion by an attorney about the validity of the action taken by the township. That is untrue. There are briefs that have been filed in the court that have been written by my partner, Andy Brewer, I'm sorry, Mr. Feld, I'm
Feld.
speaking, that have articulated and defended the legality of all the actions taken by the township committee in connection with the adoption of that ordinance and refuting the allegation that the mayor at the time, Ms. Prupus, was engaged in a conflict of interest. I understand that the local finance board has agreed that that is an invalid allegation.
Mr. Feld, Mr. Feld, excuse me, Mr. Feld, this is a business meeting. Mr. Feld, Mr. Feld, Mr. Feld, please.
There is a
Marity.
professional legal obligation to behave in a certain fashion as an attorney. And
You're $2 million overpaid.
Ms. Stone.
I'm going to address that point too.
I'm done too.
I'm gonna address
Finish.
that point too. So that legal opinion has been written and is in before the court. The matter is awaiting a mediation. And it's really hard to understand how that's going to produce any outcome here, because the question is whether the ordinance is valid or not. And so the question then is, how do you mediate that? The demand has been made over and over again, let's mediate. How do you mediate a question about whether an ordinance is valid or not? There's no middle ground. It either is or it isn't. There's no baby to split there. It's one or the other. That is a legal question. We've been maintaining the point throughout that that is an issue that has to be decided by the court. The court has, at the request of the plaintiffs, submitted the matter for mediation in an effort to see if it can be resolved. We're going to do that, but I don't hold out any hope that that is going to happen, that the mediation is going to result in a resolution of that litigation. I apologize for talking about this so much because we're really in the weeds in a lawsuit here, but it comes up over and over again. I'm going to address the question again that has come up, I think, a couple of years. I've addressed it repeatedly about the allegation that our firm owes Milburn $2 million. That's an offensive statement. It is untrue. It is not legally valid. The allegation is that the contract our firm had years ago had an upset limit. In other words, a number that had to be approved by the township committee to exceed. It was not an explicit change order as Mr. Feld has urged that there should be, but there has been what's tantamount to a change order. What is that? It's an adoption at every meeting of the township committee of a resolution to pay our firm those fees. That is tantamount to an agreement to go beyond the maximum limit of that contract in those several years. That statement that has been made repeatedly is defamatory and obnoxious, and it is untrue. Lastly, my last topic is the 100% affordable housing project, of which, as I've explained, I have a limited role in that. I was not involved in connection with the settlement agreement. My role is to assist the township in implementing a portion of the settlement agreement, which was the agreement to enter into a redevelopment agreement, as we talked about, adopt a redevelopment plan, and also enter into a financial agreement, which is the formal term that describes a pilot. A pilot is a payment in lieu of taxes. A payment in lieu of taxes is a technique that is used in redevelopment to establish a fixed amount that can change over time for the taxes for the project. An affordable housing project is a perfect candidate for a payment in lieu of taxes based upon an analysis of the pro forma, of the rate of return, on the income for the project, which will be lower than a market rate project. The pilot agreement or financial agreement has not been negotiated yet. That is something yet to be done, and that is something that the court determined should be done in February. The question was, does the Board of Education share in any portion of a pilot payment? And the answer is no. Under the state statute, the pilot payments are divided differently than regular payments. Those payments go 95% to the municipality and 5% to the county. The Board of Education, in every situation throughout the state where there is a pilot payment, is not specifically receive pilot funds. There's a great deal of misunderstanding about the effect of that outcome. And the argument is often incorrectly made that school boards are losing money. They are not. It's just a question of where does the money come from? If a school budget is approved by whatever mechanism applies in a municipality, whether it's a referendum that approves the school budget, those funds will be raised by taxes. It will not be taxed on that piece of property that is subject to the pilot agreement. So that's the answer to that question. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that covers all the topics I was going to cover.
Thank you, Mr. Marizzi.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
Oh.
I'm sorry. There's the allegation, it was held up a legal notice about a project in Newark. And it happens that for a number of years, I represented Newark in redevelopment projects of that type. I know the difference between that project and this project in Milburn. And the difference is that per the settlement agreement, and by the way, this is a 100% affordable project in Milburn. Per the settlement agreement, whatever funding is short to implement that project must be raised by the township. The settlement agreement actually provides that to the extent that there is a shortage in the funds that are needed to finance the construction of that project, including remediation or whatever, the township may need to issue a bond ordinance. Committeeman Vinayak has often mentioned the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That's another source of funding for that. So here's the outcome of that. If the township were to appraise the property, which is often done, and I represent municipalities in redevelopment throughout the state, and that is a practice that is sometimes done. This is a different situation here. Why? Because if you appraise the property and pick a number, if you want to pick $1 million, if you want to pick 20 million, it goes in one side of the balance sheet and comes out the other, and the township pays it either way. And so the sale price of this property is pegged at $1. It could be pegged at $5 million to give the impression, the misimpression that the township is being paid millions of dollars for the property, but it would be a false statement misleading the public because it would have to come out of the other pocket of the municipality. So it is simply the way an affordable housing project of this nature works, and that the idea that the municipality is losing something there is wrong. What you're saving the cost of an appraisal, actually, because it would be a useless exercise. I think I'm now done.
Thank you, Mr. Marizzi. Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, I think it's a bit unfair to hold up a piece of paper and say that, you know, you should do it like this when we don't know anything about that site, whether it's just strictly a redevelopment site or whether they are in fact sponsoring the project or whether they have surplus property that they're trying to sell. So I appreciate your clarification on that, Joe. One thing I'd like to address is two comments made by Ms. Urso. One is that whether Oprah expenses come out of a retainer They still cost money. That's still money that can't be, other things can't be applied in the retainer. So I just want to like making that statement is like when I hear that, vacation days or sick days don't cost money either. So like it's still a cost. I also don't understand, and this will go into answering Ms. Sherman's question, when we say the police department is understaffed or that we found out that the police department is understaffed. We did a study 4 years ago or commissioned a study 4 years ago that we spoke about at this meeting, and we told the Township Committee and we asked the Township Committee to provide funding and approval for the addition of 4 new officers in the table of organization in the Millburn Police Department. And then again, this year, they did the same thing, allowing for 2 additional police officers. I'm not sure that continues to indicate an understaffing of the police department or whether we've followed what was asked when we did that study 3 or 4 years ago. When it comes to the deployment of police officers, that's correct. The police chief is the one that has the authority to indicate when and where police officers are deployed. And there's a whole host of reasons that that's the case, mostly the Attorney General. Joe, Ms. Sherman had asked for a clarification about Mr. Vinayak's motion, but I think essentially what occurred was that there was an idea to potentially go back to the judge and ask for an extension. That motion never took place. We are still moving towards a December 6th due date of the redevelopment agreement with excavation being written into the redevelopment agreement.
Mr. McDonald, we also talked about talking to Mr. Cantor, and I'm still sticking with that. I'm not taking this whole thing away completely. I just do not want Mr. Maraziti to take a lead on this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, I understand. I think.
Alice, can you just share the hiring process with the police, how it's civil service and then they have to go to the academy and?
Yeah.
Can you just share that?
Yeah, once we decide to hire a police officer, it will take up to or over a year to put them on the road as a counted police officer in the table of organization. Essentially what happens is you go through a civil service process in which we call for a list from civil service. They produce a list based on the number of names that we request, which is usually based on the number of officers we're going to hire. We go through a pretty rigorous vetting process, background checks, interviews, home visits, all sorts of things to vet the officers that work for the township. Once we hire them, they come to the Township Committee for confirmation. They get sent to the academy, which is about 6 months. And then when they come back, they have another 6 months on the road in a field training officer situation in which they're being trained by a more veteran officer. After a year, they're done their probationary period, and then they count as a member of the police department and count towards the table of organization.
Thank you.
Anything else, sir?
I do not have anything else.
Okay. Mr. Vinayak, we'll start with you because you're up there.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
There are a few questions. I can wait for others to respond back and then come back.
No,
or
go
I can
ahead.
stop.
You go.
Okay, there was this question raised for traffic signals. I suggest the gentleman who raised that question put that a concern through the website so it is tracked and it's not lost. The request is not lost. There's also a pedestrian safety advisory board that only looks at these things where how the traffic is flowing and how pedestrian crossing is being measured or looked after. So they look at these concerns that township residents put in. They take it very seriously and they have professionals on that team. So that will be very helpful. So if you could put that through the township website and the concern, hopefully that gets taken care of. I was also told by Mr. Stoller that I wasted his 20 minutes and along with everyone else's. My apologies if I wasted your time, Mr. Stoller, along with others. my goal is not to stay away from pushing it out to January. That is my goal still. But I would like to talk to Mr. Cantor and go through him rather than going through Mr. Mariziti. And that is what I choose to do because he is the one who was negotiating for us with the judge. And Mr. Mariziti is under pressure from the judge, answering the judge back of what her intentions are. I'm not ready to talk about my intention right at this minute with him. I would rather have a full-blown conversation with the other attorney and have him go back to the judge. And I am on that track. Maybe by next meeting, I will put that motion. There is no rush for me to do it right at this second. Again, historic preservation. Last time also I spoke, there's a lot of residents who have come in here. Thank you for coming in. This matter has not been brought in front of the Township Committee. And I'm actually, again, very demotivated with the whole process that has happened. And I'd like to put a motion on the table here. If there is more than 5 properties being impacted, and there's an official letter going to those 5 property or more, that should go first get informed to the Township Committee before going to the residents. May I have a second on that?
Is that legally okay to do?
I think you have to look at the ordinance. I was going to discuss it all, so we can discuss it when we're all finished.
So just getting down to the core of this is, at least I am unaware of what was discussed in the Historic Preservation Committee. And having 150 units being impacted, or 153 units being impacted without our knowledge, and there are letters sent, official letters sent to them. And I get emails from the residents, and that's how I get to know. And this could happen in any committees. This could happen anywhere. If you're sending in official letters, I believe it should be in the knowledge of Township Committee. Whether we say no or yes is after the fact. At least we should be aware of what is happening when they're sending official letters out, not just HPC. Again, I'm saying this as a more than 5 because more than 5 is a multi-family that comes in play. So
you're saying zoning and planning should do the same thing since they're municipal land use boards?
Well, zoning again is a pre-committee zoning that discuss and bring it to our attention. They are not sending any letters out to all the residents or even more than 5 residents.
They get, no, zoning gets, everything does go out through letters. They're all municipal land use boards, Deputy Mayor.
No, but they don't do it directly to those residents if that is more than 5. They don't.
Right.
They send it one letter, they take one property at a time. And if that is impacting all 20 residents, gets the letter that this house is doing something, that you can attend that meeting, but it never goes out. 153 houses getting impacted and TC doesn't even know about it.
I have a whole report on that, so we'll get that as soon as you're finished or everyone's finished.
So my motion is still on the table. If maybe we'll come back to that motion after Ms. Megan's provide her report.
I think you'd have to change the ordinance on it, and I don't think that we're ready to do that tonight, Mr. Vinayak.
Okay, but my vote, as I said last time also, if it ever comes to the TC as a standing thing, I would actually say no, because the process that went through, I'm opposed to that process.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Now,
do you have anything else?
Yes,
please.
I'm going down the list. So Newark property, as our attorney said, as our business administrator said, Newark property sold for $500,000 doesn't mean anything here. We as a township are being liable to pay, and overall we are in the flu of $3 to $5 million is what we were told that we'll have to pay for the 75 units. Other monies are going to be collected from the state, from other funding. Now with excavation, there will be $2 million, approximately $2 million more. So it would be $5 to $7 million that township will have to put into the project. Now we can sell this property for even 5 million, 1 million, 10 million, whatever you want to sell it for, whatever the right fair value is. that again becomes a township onus and we'll have to pay that. So saying that we are selling it for $1, first of all, there is no contract signed yet. It's an overall project that is being calculated and it's on the township to get that project complete. It's a complete affordable housing project. It is not a builder making 20% affordable. So there's a difference between what Newark property was discussed and what we are discussing. Two-way traffic, we have a resident come in asking about two-way traffic. Mr. McDonald can be, and we have added that to our website. Could we also please float this two-way traffic project into social media and other way of communication so people know what we are talking about? It's been talked about for over a year or maybe almost 2 years now. And I know there is always room for improvement. And in communication, we can always keep improving. And thank you for your input from the township residents who brought this up. Township policing, it is totally up to police chief where to allocate resources. Totally. Township committee do not have a say there. It is completely under the jurisdiction of police chief. And Mr. McDonald said we have approved 2 new police officers. That was for the retirement replacement. I have not approved any adding to the police force. So we have 58 police officers and we still should have only 58 police officers. If we are saying that we will have 60, that was not approved, at least by me.
Yes.
Affordable Housing Commission.
We approved it, Mr. Benayak.
Well, that again, if you go back to the meetings, maybe in the meeting that I wasn't present, when we approved it, the next meeting, it was told specifically corrected that it was on the retirement replacement. It wasn't a new addition.
No, we have no additions too. Right? Yeah, please.
So there are currently a list for 4 officers, 2 replacement of retirees and 2 in addition to the table of organization. Now, while Mr. Benayak may not have voted or voted in the affirmative for the expansion of the table of organization for the police department, it was done by this governing body. And so therefore the table of organization for the Millburn Police Department is 60 officers.
Thank you.
Okay. And the Affordable Housing Commission that someone has spoke about, that commission was going to be instated here after we are done with this current round. It was going to be for 2025 to 2035 round. And that was supposed to be for starting next year, once this is completely done or dealt with. So there is no confusion on that commission that whether they're talking about this time agreement or the next 2025 to 2035 agreement. Now, that said, overall, voting are here. Mail-in ballots have already been in place. Please, we have state, we have county, we have township committee, we have Board of Ed, and we have a question for Board of Ed. Please vote across all of them. And we have 4 talented applicants, Ms. Charu Goyal, Mr. Bruce Kramer, Mr. Ben Stoller, and Mr. Frank Sacramenti. Whoever you want to vote for, vote. But please make sure you check your facts, not just hear and say, go to the township website, look at, there is affordable housing page, there is flood mitigation page, there is all information are out there. And please ask the question again. We will constantly repeat the answers wherever possible. And hi from Kansas. So there's a resident who said he was traveling to Texas. I'm very close to him. I'm also for a business trip, but attending this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor Benayak. Ms. Prupus?
Yes, so there were 2 questions, Alex, that you didn't respond to, and I was wondering if you could just answer about how 9/11 and the flex parking removal, what monies were used for it. Can you give a quick answer to that? Just put that question to rest.
Other capital funds and other general funds. Sometimes there seems to be a bit of a misconception that there's no flexibility within the budget. Certainly when the work was looking to be done and the ordinance was challenged, and we had received bids for flex parking removal, which came in significantly lower than we had anticipated. We were able to utilize other funding that was available and applicable within the capital budget.
Okay, and the other one about this most recent survey, I know that it went out with 2 options and then a third option was added. Was that third option taken away?
It was, because the third option was not an option, and the idea was to allow for residents that didn't want to choose an option, which I think should have been, but to leave their comments, because the excavation versus capping was really the question at hand. Neither was not a choice of the township committee to choose going forward, but certainly people should have been able to fill out the survey and not choose an option, leave a comment, let the committee know what and how they felt about it.
Got it. So you replaced the no option with comments?
The no option with not making it a requirement to
Submit it.
Correct.
Understood. Okay, I just think it's really important that we, like the questions that were asked, that we give some kind of response to, so that they're not just left out there lingering. Okay, so in terms of, I want to thank all the residents who came out to speak about the historic district designations and have their voices heard. And I think what I've learned through this whole process, and that the process is flawed. I think we can all agree on that. And I know that we never talked about the historical designations in these meetings. And I think that we need to figure out a way to address it and to give people more time to know what's coming down. I mean, they must have spoken about it. I'm not the representative. I didn't attend any, but I'm imagining they spoke about this publicly this year at the Historic Preservation Commission. You're shaking your head at it. You don't know, or you know they did not?
No, I don't think they did. I don't think it was until that last.
How
meeting.
could that be? So I don't understand. So like, what I want to know is how this happened. And like, if you're saying that they didn't talk about it all year, I mean, I guess I don't want to have to go back and watch all year of HBCs, but. So somebody knows, I mean.
I don't know if it was talked about, but I don't think that the residents were brought in. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No, it's okay. Yeah, no, I'm asking like if it was
I-
talked about.
I agree. I wanted to address it also, and thank the people that
Hold on
did
one
come
sec.
out.
Are you finished?
I'm sorry.
No, yes, that's all right. Yeah.
I just wanted,
Hold on, just finish, please.
Yeah, I'm gonna finish and.
Thank you. Sorry.
Right, so I personally would like the chair of the Historic Preservation Committee, no, not the chair, like Allison Canfield. Like, I would like to know how this happened and what the process they took that we got to this point. So, and I think that Allison actually owes our entire community some kind of explanation, because I did watch that meeting, and I think that the fact that it was set up in a way because they did not want to hear from the residents. It was very clear that the whole meeting was altered. They tabled the one application that they had so that all the people that came to speak weren't given the opportunity to in that venue. And so I think that Allison needs to be held accountable for that decision. And I think it was the wrong decision. And I would I want an apology as a TC member that this happened. So, and I think all the residents also probably want an apology at the process of that meeting. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
Do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
No, that is
You're finished?
Oh, yeah, that is it.
That is it. Finished. Okay, Michael?
Okay, do you want to go first if you want to talk about this? I don't want
I'm
to.
sure. I mean, I just want to piggyback on what Committeewoman Prupa said, and I also felt in the dark. This all happened and we were getting emails and phone calls. And my only response to people, was to attend the meeting, make your voices heard. And I said that up until that afternoon of that meeting, not knowing that it was going to be tabled. So, I apologize to all of you. And I do think that the the current HPC ordinance needs to be revisited. I don't know what it looks like. I haven't looked at it, but I think it needs to change. I think there needs to be more transparency. I think the township committee should be in the loop as to what's going on and not like totally, you know, I got bombarded with emails and I didn't know how to react. I didn't have any knowledge or anything of it. So I just wanted to say that about HPC. But the Fair Share Housing Citizen Advisory Commission, didn't we decide we weren't going to do it because we didn't have a liaison?
What happened was last year, when Diane was still on, Diane and Tara were gonna head up
We
that.
talked about it at the end of this year, we were gonna revisit. Alex, I sent you an email, I said, did you talk to Dr. Burton? I never heard from you. Because you were gonna ask Dr. Burton if she would sit up.
Yeah, I've
sit on
I've
it.
asked both the environmental commission and
Also-
Dr. Burton.
And then at the end
However,
of the-
I'm
yeah,
sorry, but however, Mr. Benayak, what he stated was also what was discussed was that once this process that you're currently going through was,
It was gonna be for this, we were gonna put it out on the volunteer, like it was gonna be ready to go for 2024. And it was gonna go out, you know, for our volunteer, like, what is this, what did we give? The form, like if you're interested, volunteer interest form, which is that posted or we don't post that yet?
No, it's on the website.
Which is on the website,
always
if
on
you
the
wanna
website, yeah.
volunteer for the township, to sit on any boards or commissions, it's on the website.
The
Affordable Housing
Committee's not on there.
No, not that, right, but we were gonna pass we were gonna pass the ordinance so that it would be on for next year. Which we can still do for next year.
Last year, there was trouble finding a chair.
Nobody wanted to do it
Wait,
last year.
no, and also, that's, first of all, that's not what happened. We can go back and watch it. You said not for this year, we'll wait until we get to the end of the year. Okay, that's exactly what it is. I said didn't want to do it. I wasn't
didn't wanna
committing
do
to
it.
it.
Right.
But go back and you'll see, nobody else wanted to do it, but we said we would talk about it. It was like in March that we did it, and we said we would talk about it and we would plan it for the end of the year.
Why didn't you bring it up?
I didn't bring it up. We still have the end of the year, so it'll be on for the next, we'll make sure that.
But
Devin Warren's on the
there's more
next
than
day.
being a liaison. We needed somebody to like come up, well, not only run it, but come up with a mission statement or an idea of what this group is gonna be tasked to do. And we don't have that. Right?
And nobody was signing.
And
up.
nobody
I'll
was
do
signing
it.
up.
I will have it, I will work with Alex. Alex said, wait, I had this conversation. I said, Alex, would you work with me on this? We did. And we said we will table it for the summer. And you know, summer's over. It's been a crazy whatever week, and now we will have it on the agenda. On this, I will be here in November. I changed my plans, to make sure I'm at the meeting. And we will have a mission statement and some kind of proposal so that we can get an ordinance going. We can have it passed, we can have something to look at, and then we have 2 meetings in December, so we can get it ready to go for January. There we go.
Do you have anything else you want to talk about? That's it.
And now I'll go.
Mr. Cullen.
I'll reserve my comments on HPC because you said you were gonna give a whole report. So
Yes.
I'd like to hear what you have to say before
No,
I
go
make
ahead.
my comments on that particular issue.
Okay, sure.
I do want to say though, with regard to the indemnification stuff that's gonna come up as old business to put in, there's a misconception that we don't have anything like that on the books. Of course we do. What's being discussed is to make 2 changes to that. One is involves the number of days that people have to report and the township committee has to react to a situation like that. And the other one is to add to make it clear that someone who's involved with a clerical error, filling out a form for the state or local government is indemnified, because that was not clear in the policy before. We'll be covering it in old business, but it's not like we're carving this out of the air and you had nothing. It's a pretty extensive ordinance, and those are the 2 changes that are proposed.
Mr. Barbera, it's a county road, so we can speak to them about Hobart and White Oak Ridge, but that is a county road for that left-hand turn, but we could sure put an email into Sanjeev in the county and see if they would be willing to change that light. I don't know if they will or not, but I hear what you're saying. I take that left.
That's okay.
Yeah, Barbera.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
And so we'll try that. And then what we were saying was if you wanted to On the website, there is a button. How do we have it say now on the new website? If you want to register like a complaint or you have a question
Report
or
of concern.
report a concern, you could go to report a concern. Anybody could do that. Report a concern. If there's something that's bothering you, something that needs fixing, report it because then we can track it. So that's important. So that's that. Just want to make sure I cover everything. Hold on. Myself. In reference to the gentleman who called in and wanted to know why the police were I was at this Historic Preservation Committee meeting. I don't know who called the police. I'm sorry you didn't feel safe. However, there have been times where we have had to have the police in our meetings. I myself have been threatened. Somebody threatened to break my legs in this township committee meeting just 2 months ago. A woman stood up there and threatened to break my legs. I've been stalked. I'm in the middle of a court case with someone who's stalking me. So yes, we do need to have the police here. And I don't know why the Historic Preservation Commission felt the need to have the police. I don't know. I can't speak to it. I don't know who called them. But if they felt that they were in harm's way or they weren't safe, then everybody has every right to feel safe representing us as volunteers in our town. Cover G. Just want to make sure. Now, we'll go to Historic Preservation Commission because I am the liaison for the Historic Preservation Commission. And Allison Canfield has come in front of us before, and we have funded different studies for her. So just a little lesson here because, you know, so many of us are busy, right? We're running kids to practice. We're, you know, getting dinner on the table. We're working. We're busy. We don't have times. And all of a sudden we get a letter in the mail and we're like, what the heck is this all about? But to know what the Historic Preservation Commission is, it's in order to safeguard the heritage of this township that we live in, they preserve Millburn's cultural, historical, social, archaeological, economic, and architectural resources. The Township Committee by ordinance created the HPC in 1987. So that was 36 years ago, almost 40 years ago. And they have duties. They swear to them. Maintenance of the historic structure survey, recommendation of any actions necessary for updating the historic preservation element of the master plan. That was just finished. They advised the planning board and the zoning board on applications for development affecting designated historic districts and sites. So at that meeting, and it was a little raucous, the chairwoman did say, and I'll repeat this, over the last few weeks since the public notice of the availability of the nomination reports for the proposed designation of historic districts, the HPC volunteer members and professionals had numerous conversations with residents and business owners. They greatly appreciated your comments, considered them. The discussions led them to believe there's incorrect information circulating about the effect of the designations. And while we have tried to correct such incorrect information, the HPC board members and professionals need to provide more detailed explanations of the local designation process. They need to do better with that. It's important for you as well to understand your rights and your responsibilities. So the aim of the HPC is to preserve the district's character through collaboration with homeowners and design review. Most applicants come away pretty happy. But they do recognize that the way it went about, which they followed the legal perspective of it, you know, by sending out letters and giving people a certain amount of notice, et cetera, it would have been easier if they had met with everyone first rather than someone getting a letter in the mail. They understand, but they were following the letter of the law. So sometimes the letter of the law doesn't necessarily equate to people thinking, what the heck is going on? They're going to hold public meetings with everybody. They also say, you know, we're fortunate to call Millburn Short Hills their home. They recognize the town faces significant challenges. HPC can be pretty valuable. Their commitment was designating, it was 4 districts. It wasn't 1. They didn't table 1, they tabled all 4.
No, I said that they tabled an application for that night so that they couldn't hold public comment.
No, I don't know about that. I know they know, I know that, I don't know about that, but I know that.
You were at the meeting. That's exactly what happened.
So, okay, so I'll finish.
It was very calculated on how they proceeded that night.
They want to protect the preservation of the town's history and architectural beauty. So that's what they said. So now, I am the liaison for the HPC. I will say this, the Historic Preservation Commission is very important to me. I've lived in town for 25 years. I sell real estate in town, full time. I've sold homes that are in the historic district. I've sold homes that are designated historic in the historic district. I've sold homes that aren't. I've seen homes get torn down that have been historic, that have been part of our history that you'll never get back. One of the things they did put into play, as it were, is they came up because HPC used to be so onerous. What they did instead was they've created this committee that reviews applications every week that you don't even have to go in front of the HPC. You want to put in a generator, you want to put in a fence, you want to change something, that you can go, you don't even have to go in front of the HPC, you go in front of this committee and they just approve it. And the reason I know this is I get these notices all the time in my email that this has been approved, this has been approved. Also, and it doesn't cost anything. Also, if you want to make a major renovation on your house, but you don't want to go in front of the HPC yet, you want to just get an idea of what they think about the design and everything, you can meet with them. You can just meet with them. It doesn't cost anything. They come in, they give you input on your designs. What did they think about it? So what you have to know is, and I'm so sorry that most of the people have left for the evening, the HPC doesn't designate your district. The township committee designates the district. So let me say that again. The township committee is the ones who vote yes or no to whether or not something gets designated, whether it's a house or a park or a district, whatever it is, or something like the Short Hills Club. It's up to the township committee to vote on it. The HPC, their job, it's a responsibility, is to have the designations. They vote on moving the process forward, but ultimately the vote to designate is with the township committee. It's never with the HPC. They're considered a municipal land use board. So I think for them, and I'm so, you know what I'm really so sorry about is that this came out during election season, because it's embarrassing that both the Republicans and the Democrats have used this as an election issue. It's disgusting on both your parts. It really is. The only thing, and I want you to know this, because I want you to really think hard about this. The only thing that's protecting our town today from big developers destroying the neighborhoods is your HPC. That will be the only thing protecting it. And I want you to remember that. I want you to remember that. Because sometimes we sit up here and we hear things and you have to connect the dots. A lot of you aren't connecting the dots. We're connecting the dots. You're all playing checkers. The developers are playing chess. They're 5 years ahead of you and you don't even realize it. So when you look at something like, this is important, you know this. When you look at something like the affordable housing that everybody's bitching about, and I get it. Nobody wants it. We know about the kicking of the can. We know that it's fallen on our laps. We know we haven't done the right thing. We did the best we can because we weren't given the best cards to deal with. But know this, that Judge Jacobson, not the TC, Judge Jacobson determined that the Township of Millburn owed 1,373 units of housing, of low and moderate housing. We didn't determine that number, they did. We only have on the books 155 units. Do you know what that means? That means the township still owes 1,200 units. And that's through now. That's through now. In 2025, when they come at you again, you better be ready for them to want to do more. So what does that mean? Well, that means if somebody wants to go into a residential neighborhood and they want to take a 3.5 acre lot and turn it into 300 housing units, you can't stop it. And you won't be able to stop it. And don't think that single family zoning is going to stop you. It's not. It is not. You look up Rosie O'Donnell, 5.5 acres. There's 60 units on her property now in the middle of a residential neighborhood in Upper Saddle River. A developer went in and bought it and they went to fair share housing. Look it up. It's in the New York Post. Look it up. 12 units are for low and moderate. So that's what you're going to be facing in 2025. So not only do we have the 1,200 units we don't know how many more units are going to own. But HPC can protect something like that. So now nobody wants anything in their backyard. You just need to know you're not protected by zoning. You are not protected by zoning. I'm going to say it again. You're not protected by zoning. Zoning was redone for Annie Says. Zoning was redone for Chatham Road. Zoning was redone for Wells Fargo. We had to change our zoning for those 3 projects. Doesn't matter that we only want 4 feet building. It doesn't matter what we want. We had no choice in the matter. So, I look at something like, I've been around 25 years in this town and I grew up in South Orange. You look at something like the Saks Fifth Avenue property. Nobody wanted the Stop and Shop. They fought it. For 25 years, they fought that Stop and Shop. Well, now you have 270 units, not in our town, on 9.5 acres. So that's 270 units on 9.5 acres. Think about it. And there's nothing we could do about it. But that's what happens when you fight the Stop and Shop. Or Dr. Tansey lived on Chestnut Street, wanted to have his little medical offices on Chatham Road. Everybody fought him. Okay, now you're getting 62 housing units. You like that better? So you have to think about these things. Nobody's thinking that way. We have HPC's good things they're doing. They help with the paper mill. They saved the paper mill. Paper mill's doing a major renovation. They worked with HPC. They came up with different plans. It's saving them money and it looks even better than it was going to. So that's pretty good that HPC is doing that. HPC is helping us with town hall, are they not? Getting involved with town hall. We have, this is an old historic building. I think this used to be a firehouse.
The town hall, firehouse, police station.
All of the, yeah, we have cells downstairs. So I just, I don't say much when I'm up here. I really don't. You guys all complain. I don't talk at all. But, and I chose not to run for personal reasons. And I like to stay quiet. But I'm flabbergasted that this has turned into a political issue. I really am. I think you guys aren't getting the facts out there. You recently had a piece of property sell on 165 Old Short Hills Road. Look up the developer that bought it. Let's see how long he holds it for. It's 3.5 acres. It's an 1867 federal colonial. It's a historic home. It was part of that historic district. Let's see what happens to that property. Let's wait 2 years and see. And remember that I told you this. I just want to be clear that it was Judge Jacobson who came up with those numbers. You have somebody right now who's declared to run for governor. Right now, who wants to double down on the fair share housing. Remember that. They don't think we have enough fair share housing units in our towns. They want to double it. So remember that. Remember that. Remember that. So, and another thing I would say, you've got to look at something like Glen Ridge. The town of Glen Ridge, it's all historic. It's all marked historic. Somebody started gobbling up houses in a neighborhood, one at a time, that's what they'll do here. One at a time. Now there's a big 110 unit building there in the middle of a residential neighborhood. Don't think it can't happen, it's going to. Single family housing, some people think it's racist. Oregon, California, they've eliminated single family zoning. There are towns that are starting to do it as well. Eliminating single family zoning. It's coming. You want to protect yourself? You'll protect yourself through historic. It's been brought to my attention that some people on this dais want to get rid of HPC. That's a big mistake. That's a big mistake. That's the only thing that's protecting this town right now. Mr. Feld, I'm not going to be sitting up here in January. I know you'll be in that room. And see, I don't think mayors should come back. I think once they've served their time, they should move on. But I think you're going to be here, and I think you have to protect. I'm asking you to protect HPC, because I think that the people on this dais won't. And I think that's a terrible thing. And I think you have to hold their feet to the fire. I'm just letting you know that.
My mayor dump, you are the mayor, the queen. The queen of Milford.
There are other people on paid boards in this town. There are other people on paid boards in this town who worked to create the chaos at that meeting the other night. It was a mob. It was disgraceful. Nobody should be treated like that. You have a woman for 15 years who served on the HPC, who was volunteer. We're volunteers up here and on every board. 15 years she's been on that board. She works full time for this town. To be abused the way she was, it was disgusting. And it was even more disgusting, every single one of you candidates. How dare you? How dare you use this? This is a municipal land use board. We moved to this town to live in a beautiful community with winding streets and beautiful homes. We don't want to look like any town USA. Is that what we want our town to look like? That ugly building down on Milburn Avenue that looks like any other building, 270 units? Is that what we want for our town? How do you think property values stay so high? Everyone wants to say it's the schools, it's a bucolic town. Do you know most wealthy towns, most people don't realize this, but most wealthy towns have historic districts just for preservation. Mr. Stoller, you live in a historic home.
Love it.
Mr. Stoller lived in a historic home on a Saturday. He did an illegal roof. He ripped the roof off on a Saturday. I got a phone call about it.
Yep.
And you want to know something? Historic didn't stop him.
Nope.
Put your roof on, go down and get a permit.
Yep.
So everybody makes historic out to be this big, bad, ugly. Find a different thing to vote on. Find a different thing to fight about, the four of you. And leave historic alone. It's a disgrace. I am disgusted by all of you. I really am.
I don't understand. Wait,
Excuse me.
okay,
Excuse
I
me.
feel like we're being lectured here.
You are.
This is
You
like
are.
kind of ridiculous.
Well, that's too bad. Isn't that too bad?
It's like ridiculous.
I'm letting you know. I'm putting it on the table. And that is that. I'm putting it on the table. So you know, don't say I didn't tell you. Don't say I didn't warn you. Don't say I
Like,
didn't
how
warn you.
disrespectful are you being to the people that came right now? They're just like, they're walking out.
They were walking out. I can't stop people from walking out. I wish they had stayed.
No one's saying to get rid of historic, they're just upset with the process and
This
they
is-
wanted to have their voices
I
heard,
understand.
and they weren't
And
given the
so,
opportunity. to.
excuse me, Allison is going to be meeting with all of them. She's going to meet with them individually.
You know
Thank
what?
you.
She should have said that that night.
She's speaking truth to power. Let her go.
Thank
She's
you.
speaking truth to power.
We've been waiting to hear from you.
Yes.
I know, I don't speak very often, but when I do, I mean everything I say. I know. So now the township will now consider consent agenda resolutions. Are there any comments from the committee in regards to any items listed on the consent agenda? Anybody? May I have a motion to approve resolution 23-251 through resolution 23-254, which are listed on the consent agenda?
So
May I have a second? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus? Yes. Ms. Romano?
yes.
Deputy Mayor Banayak?
Yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution 23-255. Are there any comments from the committee in regards to resolution 23-255? Seeing none, may I have a motion
Can
to
you-
approve? Yep.
Can we please go over it one more time?
Do you want to go over it for Mr. Vinayak? Just tell him what it is.
These are the manuals for rental and sales of affordable rentals and affordable sales in town, as well as the rehab manual, which were outlined in the township settlement agreement, fair share housing in the courts. They're a requirement to be passed, and they're on the agenda tonight for consideration.
Any questions, Mr. Vinayak?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Prupus, did you have a question? I saw you at the corner of my eye.
We don't have any affordable housing for sale though, so
Correct.
it's just like,
But you have to have the manual and the mechanism for how you would address those and how you would market those and how those things would go in your community, whether you have them or not, or whether you ever have them or not.
you're required to
Yeah.
have.
Okay, any other comments? May I have a motion to approve resolution 23-255?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Banayak?
Yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Romano, you're scheduled to sponsor ordinance 2654-23. Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to present an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2654-23, ordinance to amend the Milburn Township Code to provide the assessment of fees for the connection of sewerage facilities to the municipal sanitary sewerage system of the Township of Milburn. The purpose of this ordinance is to revise language in the township's connection fee ordinance to increase the fee for the basic connection charge from $1,800 to $2,100 in accordance with the formula set forth in the state statute.
Anybody have any questions?
I move that this ordinance be taken up and passed on first reading and that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law in the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, November 21st, 2023.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Banayak?
Yes.
Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Romano, ordinance 2648-23, you are scheduled to sponsor this.
I present for consideration an ordinance entitled ordinance number 2648-23. Bond ordinance to authorize the acquisition of real property for public purposes in, by, and for the township of Milburn in the county of Essex, state of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $2,500,000 to pay the cost thereof, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds. Tonight is the time set for the public hearing and final passage as advertised in accordance with law.
I will now declare the hearing open.
Jeffrey Feld, Short Hills. Procedurally, I have real questions about this because tomorrow the planning board is supposed to have consideration for this for the capital project. So I don't know how you're voting on a bond ordinance before they make a recommendation to you. In addition, I don't know why you're approving a bond prior to you approving the sale, the acquisition, which is not heard to November 19th. My recommendation to you as fiduciaries that you wait for the planning board's input, which is they're required to give to you when you're doing an capital application, and you approve the sale prior to the buying the bond. Because what happens if you approve the bond and you don't approve the sale, or the planning board comes back? I just don't understand why we're not doing something in sequence where there's supposed to be protocols and procedures. But what do I know? I mean, it was Judge Moore who required and instructed you to take mediation.
I move that this public hearing be closed and the ordinance be adopted on final reading, and that the township clerk be directed to publish the ordinance by title as passed on final reading in accordance with law.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Roll call vote,
Wait,
please.
we're not gonna
Oh,
answer. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
but I think we should answer that.
They have it.
Mr. Cohen.
Yeah, so the.
Yeah. Let's go, it's 10 o'clock. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, they're fair questions. So
Yeah.
the question is the sequence of the adoption of these different steps. And as I said before, all of them must take place in order for the township to be bound under the contract of sale. So that the failure of any one of these would upset the transaction. Tomorrow night, the planning board will be considering a courtesy review, a capital review. That is not a binding role of the planning board. It is to make recommendations that whatever they may be can still be implemented as the rest of the process goes forward. Could the other ordinance be adopted before this one? Of course. It's a question of sequence and chicken and egg, and there's nothing improper or illegal or violating of any procedures about how to go about it. The bond ordinance is ready to go, and so we're ready to vote on that with the understanding that other things have to happen for this transaction to be consummated.
Yeah, I'd just like to also point out that, the planning board is hearing this as a courtesy review of, capital purchase because it deals with the purchase of property. The planning board is also the entity that put forward the element of the master plan for open space and recreation, which is, I think in the very near future, going to be coming out to the public in the public process to discuss the results of that, which include, quite frankly, a lot of information regarding people's desire to have additional recreation space, indoor recreation space, as well as classroom space. There's even a rock wall that people would like to see and has been voted on quite a bit. So I think in terms of that, this aligns well with the master plan, with the element of the master plan.
And can you just confirm for like the 10th time that if the deal falls apart, we have not already sold the bonds, we would just not do that. We're authorized to do it, but that doesn't mean that we would have actually done it until all the components occur.
That's correct, Mr. Cohen. So this is just the authorization. It is not the issuance. It is not the sale of bands or anything like that. And that also goes for the deposit. If for whatever reason the transaction falls through, the deposit is refundable.
Roll call vote, please. Sorry about that.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Banayak?
Yes.
Mayor
Oh, no,
Miggins?
sorry, no.
Deputy Mayor Banayak
No,
voted no. Mayor Miggins?
Yes.
that's right. The vote is no.
Come on, Sanjeev. Where are you? Okay, that is the 2-5. Next. Okay, old business indemnification policy. Mr. McDonald, you are scheduled to update us on that, sir.
I think Committeeman Cohen did a good job of that previously, so maybe I'll pass it over to him. But there are two minor changes that are being proposed to the indemnification ordinance. And one of those is regarding the number of days in which someone has to request indemnification. And then subsequently, the number of days that the Township Committee has to act on that. Currently, it's 10 days and 30 days. And as you know, getting things on the agenda within that amount of time and can be quite onerous. So I think it extends it to 20 and 45. And the other is to ensure that errors and omissions, unintentional errors and omissions to paperwork by staff or committee or volunteers is also covered under this. Because you fill out quite a bit of stuff and sometimes something gets missed, but it's not a nefarious or intentional act. And so just want to make sure that is covered.
So the next steps would then be to, assuming there's agreement here, the next step would be to put this on the agenda for the next meeting, as a revised ordinance.
Yes.
Okay,
Is everybody good with that?
everybody good? Good. Yes, please, thank you. Two-way traffic circulation design for Essex Street. Mr. McDonald, you're going to give us an update on
Yeah,
that, sir?
just a really brief update. One is that, prior to the last meeting, the two-way traffic subcommittee had met on this and provided their comments and revisions. Christine Bugle and myself had then subsequently met to go over those revisions with Colliers and provide some additional insight into those comments. They're currently redrafting some of these various elements, intersections, things like that. And now we're at a point where we have a month gap between this meeting and the next meeting. What I'd really like to get guidance on from the Township Committee is to get out there and get out to the public, much to the conversation that has been tonight about not many people knowing about it. There is a section on our website that covers two-way traffic. We'll make it a little bit more prominent. I think it is a little bit potentially buried in the website. But I would like to sort of get out there and start holding some public information sessions. And
Can you send out an email blast to advising people about it and directing them to that section of the website?
yeah, and once we have a date,
They're
then
gonna
we
be
can.
public meetings.
Mhm.
I mean, do we have like a set public meetings that they'll do?
I think we have two with Colliers. So I think, and I think that one of the ideas was, certainly the library is always a really good location to hold this, go over this. And the other was to potentially have it, here or, outside in some way if we catch a nice day or something. But I think that because sometimes seeing it, visually seeing it when you're out on the street, whether we could do it in lot 1 or the parking deck where it's a little bit more enclosed, being able to have people come by and see us and talk about it. But I'd just like to, understanding that they haven't come here and presented, like just be able to start that process of getting out to the public now.
Right. That's a great idea. Okay, great. We have no new business. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
May I have a second? All those in favor? Good night.